Good morning. Welcome to RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez. Happy St. Patrick's Day to the nearly 40 million Americans who are of Irish ancestry, according to the latest 2020 U.S. Census, and everyone else who celebrates. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you as well. Here's what's on tap today. At 11 this morning, the president will meet with the Taoiseach of Ireland, Michael Martin. At about 12:10, the president participates in the Friends of Ireland luncheon. That's inside the U.S. Capitol building. Both of those events will be live right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. So we'll see that bilateral meeting with the leader of Ireland and, of course, our president, Donald Trump. And then also at 12:10, the president will participate in that Friends of Ireland luncheon inside the U.S. Capitol building. We'll have both of those. Also tonight at 5:20, the president participates in the Shamrock Bowl presentation in the East Room of the White House. You can catch our live coverage at this hour, which would be starting at 5 Eastern for that later today. All right, let's do this. Before we get really kicked off with everything, let's bring in Joey Vasquez from the Media Research Center, who's been on the broadcast before. We're going to go to a couple of our Truth Social posts that we're seeing from the president, and also we'll be going to some of the clips as well. So as soon as we see Joey, we'll go to him live. But in the meantime, 10:01 Eastern time, 10:01 Eastern time, 7 out there on the West Coast. Thanks so much for watching from coast to coast, and of course in the Central Time Zone, Mountain Time Zone, and anywhere else you may be watching this broadcast. We'll be going live again to Washington, D.C. 3 times today, right here on Right Side. 2 of those events will be right here in this broadcast, and then later tonight at 5 o'clock. All right, so let's go to Joey Vasquez right now, the associate editor at MRC. Joey, how you doing, man?
My friend, the one and only Matt Alvarez. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks so much. Your thoughts about today? It looks like the Save America Act, they're actually going to debate this on the floor and maybe a vote tomorrow. But what are your thoughts about even debating about saving America?
There really shouldn't be any debate, and you're right. But of course, we're in a situation where the left doesn't really care much about, protecting America as they do about protecting their own political interests. So, of course, the debate is going to be much CTV, in my opinion. Like, I'm a political junkie, so I like watching that. But the fact that this even is a question that needs to be debated is just like one of those, like, really? You want to delay this any further? But it just goes to show like where the interests of the left are. So, we'll see. Well, hopefully this act gets passed, but it's going to be an interesting thing to watch.
Yeah, it will be, and we'll see how long it gets dragged out. Or is this going to be a quick vote? And ideally, going into our federal election, of course, November 3rd, the midterms, to know that everybody has to show a photo ID in order to vote, and that the people that have registered for the federal election for the midterm would have had to show the proof of citizenship, plus no more random mail-in ballots by just anybody. It's military, it's medical. I think the peace of mind among the people they'd be a lot happier to see that, wouldn't they?
Oh no, absolutely. Look, what you need an ID when you try to drink alcohol at your local restaurant, right? You get carded, right? And no one seems to really have an issue with that, but they seem to have an issue with showing an ID to show that you're actually a citizen to vote in this country. Why? Because well, here's the hidden message, right? This is the obvious one that we know in theory, but the left will never admit this. A lot of the people voting are not exactly citizens. Or trying to vote. So they're trying to open up that avenue there because that's a large swath of their voter base. So they know that if they have voter ID, it compromises their own voter bloc. So they'll never admit that. But of course, this is the political system that we're living in now. That's why the left seems to be over for immigrants, but they're really for just, ramping up illegal immigration so that they can increase their voting numbers. It's an egregious abuse of the Latino community, but of course they never really they don't see us anything other than votes. They see us as numbers on a spreadsheet rather than as as individuals who are worthy of respect in our own right. And then the Latino American citizens that are living in this country, they don't even like illegal immigration, stepping in front of them, or people that are looking to emigrate into this country legally. They end up getting placed on the back burner because a lot of people are either overstaying their visas or they're coming across the Rio Grande illegally. And what? So then they can vote in our political system. Try doing that in any other country. Try going to Colombia or Mexico, any of these countries, in South America. Try to illegally emigrate there and then try to vote. See what happens, and then report back.
Exactly. And then if you look at other countries throughout the earth, I mean, I think Elon Musk on X put a post out there showing all these nations that you have to have voter ID, and it was hundreds, more than 100 nations. And then the United States, nope, you really don't have to show
Why
photo
is that
ID.
even a question to me?
I
Why
know.
is that even a, I mean, it seems like one of those like duh moments, right? Like, you can't do this in any other country. Even the border policies in other countries. Imagine trying to legally immigrate, to El Salvador or Colombia or Venezuela or Cuba or, Panama, any of these other, Mexico, for example. Imagine trying to do that in other countries. They can have border policies and they can have very strong and strict border policies. But the United States, we're the ones that have to throw open the doors to open it up to anybody who's anybody. Oh, and not only that, but then you could also vote in our electoral system to tell us who should be representing the interests of the United States. It's insanity to me. But of course, this is represents, as I said before, a large swath of the voting base for the left. So they're going to try to sugarcoat it in some sort of moral grandstanding. So they make it seem like this is actually just, when in fact you're undercutting, the interests of the American people, which, as a matter of fact, includes Latino Americans.
100%. So not only illegal aliens voting, so that's one crime. Then on top of that, being here illegally, that's a second crime. And then, heaven forbid, a third crime would be any of the assaults, rapes, murders that we've seen already, or the DUIs of these guys without IDs driving these trucks. I saw a video yesterday in New York City. This guy crashes through a number of vehicles, fences, stumbles and falls outside of his truck. Police get him right there. The guy is obviously lit. You don't get lit and drive. But anyway, he's criminal illegal alien doing, all of these things. So it's just, one point you really brought up that I like too is the Democrats or the left, they like to play on the emotion. These are people, these are people that are here. They're in this land. They should vote too because they're here. But they're behind the scenes. They're just trying to steer our country to communism or worse, right?
Oh no, absolutely. As I said, they don't view immigrants, even illegal immigrants, as individuals in their own right. They view them simply as numbers on a spreadsheet, and numbers that can increase the representation for leftist states like California or New York, for example. Right. So if they get added to the census, then their representation in Congress goes up. So then their influence over congressional policy or legislation increases, right? It's this political game that's been since time immemorial, right? It's if as a matter of fact, if you look at the 3/5 clause of the Constitution, there's a lot of debate about that. The left likes to dunk on that too, but I advise them to read Frederick Douglass. They were trying to, like the left even back then, the Democrats even back then, were trying to use slaves to be counted as full citizens so that they can increase their own representation within Congress. But the northern states did not want the slave states in order to have that much influence over Congress. They didn't want to allow the left to be able to exploit people just so that they increase their power within legislation. Can you imagine? But this is the game that the left plays. They use people to their advantage. That's all that they do. If they can use a swath of people in order to get ahead politically, they will in fact do it. So now what we're just seeing is the modern day example of what has been since time immemorial. The left using people, right? Whether it be immigrants writ large or whether it be illegal immigrants. They're using them in order to increase their representation within Congress, not only in Congress, but then also in state legislatures, around the United States. This is how they gain power, by exploiting people and their circumstances in order to achieve political advantage in the American political sphere. It's egregious, it's demonic, but this is what the left is.
Well, then on top of that, Xi Van Fleet, she left China, left the communist China as a citizen in this country, as a conservative Christian on the right side of history. She called people like this useful idiots. She said that on this program here. And not only when it comes to illegal immigration and all that, how about the people that were all caught up in the protests all over the place, getting in front of all the ICE agents, throwing things out. All the things that we saw there. So again, and it's probably because they were brainwashed or they're evil or whatever, but it just goes to show how corrupt the system and all the levels of industry and in government, so the public and private parts of the government and all that, it shows how corrupt everything is, and it needs to be pulled back and scaled back. Let's shift over, though, to the lamestream media, speaking about the same kind of people here.
Of course.
It seems like they can't figure out where to put the blame for the ongoing partial government shutdown, which is affecting DHS, TSA, and all of that. So I understand you guys did a pretty cool story about this, too. The mainstream media just saying, oh, we can't blame the Democrats for this.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. I mean, first of all, shout out to my supervisor and my colleague, Curtis Houck, for conducting this amazing study. So from February 14th, I think up till now, you're talking about only 8% of the 26 minutes and 22 seconds of coverage on the shutdown had mentioned anything about Democrats being connected to it. In other words, they're playing the same game that they did, last year too, when we had the full government shutdown over the Obamacare subsidies. Now the leftist media is trying to make it look like, hey, you know what? If there's any mention of the shutdown, we're not going to mention that the Democrats' grandstanding has a lot to do with it. Why? Because they want to get the Trump administration to change their deportation policies. And of course, as I alluded to before, we touched on this. They try to make it seem like they're doing it from a sense of moral superiority, when in fact they don't like Trump's aggressive approach towards immigration policy because it affects their voter base. So that's why they want to change. So the fact that they're willing to shut down the Department of Homeland Security just for the sake of creating a voter base out of people who should not be here to begin with, just shows that they put their own political interests ahead of that of the American people. That's what they're doing. And of course, the media is complicit in helping them do this by not telling people where the blame actually lies. It lies at the feet of the Democrats. But do you think that the mainstream or the lamestream, as you pointed out, the broadcast networks are going to point this out? Absolutely not. And what makes it even more egregious, ABC World News Tonight, NBC Evening News, or CBS, NBC Nightly News, or CBS Evening News, the three biggest evening newscasts in the country, right? They have a bigger audience than, in other words, when it comes to getting an audience on TV, there's no one that compares, right? And the fact that they're still able to do this with impunity and leaving out part of the story, we call this bias by omission at the Media Research Center. It's one of the most egregious forms of media bias, because what it ends up doing is that it's not telling people the whole story. And the reason why they don't tell the whole story, because they want it to fit their own politics. That's not journalism. That's propaganda, personified. And this is just the latest example of what we at the Media Research Center have been contending with since 1987. So the fact that they're not willing to put the blame where it rightly, they'll gladly blame Republicans for anything writ large. They'll blame Republicans for anything under the sun. But when it comes to blaming Democrats, they'll toe the line if they have to, because they see a bigger game in the long run, which is protecting the left's political interests.
And finally, the FCC chairman, Brendan Carr, has been talking about license renewal for a number of the over-the-air broadcast networks, and people on X are getting it a little bit twisted. Not everybody, but I've been watching this story, and I've been seeing it for a little bit of time now. The government and ABC, CBS, NBC, right? These over-the-air broadcast networks, there's a license that they're given. And
Yes.
This has nothing to do with cable news, conservative media like RSBN and others. This has only to the major networks. So people are saying, well, what about, Fox and Newsmax and, RSBN and OAN and RAV and Lindell and all these things? We're not talking about them. We're just talking about the government licenses for these few networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, and maybe I think that's it. Is it Fox? I don't know. On the, not Fox News, but the Fox corporate when it comes to that affiliate. So your thoughts about just that, because you're kind of touching on that point as well, just the information that is just not coming out from these networks that are just false anyway.
Well, that goes to a point that we've been showing here at the Media Research Center. It's like the whole point of these FCC licenses is that you're serving the public interest. Well, if you're only pushing the left's narrative, if you're covering for them politically, if you're only acting more as activist news organizations rather than just straight news, then are you serving, in fact, the public interest? Because I hate to break it to the entire internet and the entire news sphere, but not everyone's a Democrat in this country, in case you didn't know. So there needs to be, ideally, you would expect some sort of balance reporting, but I guess that's in an ideal world. But of course, as I said, these three networks, which for all intents and purposes has a monopoly on the media market, right? Given these licenses that they're given, you would think that they would be a little bit more attentive to making sure that they're towing the line on what their license stipulates. They're not. They've been pushing this leftist now. I remember ABC. I remember ABC last year, or in 2024 during the presidential election. It was during a certain period. I forget the specific dates of the study that was conducted, but we found at the Media Research Center when Trump was debating Kamala Harris, between a certain period, the coverage that ABC was giving to Kamala Harris was 100% positive. Does that sound fair and balanced to you? But meanwhile, ABC gets the FCC license. I mean, so tell, is that serving the public interest? I don't think so. So it's an open-ended question. Should these licenses be given out? Should you be getting a special handout by the government, because of this? I mean, give me a break. If you're not going to serve the public interest, then do what every other news organization is doing, and calling for subscriptions. If you're Fox or CNN or whatever, if you're paying for cable TV, then do it that way. But you shouldn't be getting a license to be able to have access to this massive audience. But meanwhile, you're only pushing the leftist narrative. It's insanity to me that this has been going on for as long as it does. But hopefully we finally hold these media empires their feet to the fire.
Exactly. I mean, that's perfectly put. And finally, Joey, I think we need a lower third or a chyron that says, newsflash, not everybody is a Democrat, according to what you just said. Thanks so much for that breaking news.
Put on a t-shirt.
Yeah, not everybody's a Democrat. I love it. All right, so Associate Editor at the Media Research Center, Joey Vasquez. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you too, brother. Take care.
All right, see ya. All right, so good stuff there with Joey. It's 10/16, Tuesday, March 17th. Thanks again for live streaming in with us on this St. Patrick's Day. Let's go to a couple of our sponsors before we move on with our broadcast. Again, there are going to be two events that we'll have live here on this broadcast. I'll get into those again if you're just joining us. And of course, we'll have one later today as well. But let's go to kalshi.com/RSBN. So you see the trending political market right now. There's a number of different things that are going on when it comes to the topics, current events that people are trading, betting, checking out polls, all about kalshi.com/RSBN. So if politics might not be specifically what you want to look at there's music and movies and all the things of people just betting and trading and checking out all these polls on it right there. kalshi.com/RSBN, great sponsor here. More than 1 million users on that site. kalshi.com/RSBN. Let's also go to our next sponsor here on right side. You see Rumble Wallet right there on your screen. You may have seen the conversations happening online lately. Censorship is back and it's happening everywhere. Platforms controlling narratives and pushing the stuff they want us to see. And of course, we can fight back in that information and financial arena. Rumble is one of the only companies that has stood the test of time and deserves our support. On one side, Rumble is challenging big tech censorship. On the other side, they've introduced something that will give us protection from the big banks shutting us off. So, as some of you may know, banks can cancel our accounts and freeze our cards. I remember back in the day, Donald Trump Jr., I think it was PNC. There was a whole thing that this actually happened. You could check it out. The receipts are on there, on the internet there, and Don Jr. talked about it as well. So that's the point. So that's why Rumble has launched Rumble Wallet, a wallet that no one can cancel, and a wallet that supporters can use to instantly tip creators like us and others out there. So you can buy and save digital assets too, like Bitcoin and Tether Gold in one place. So there's no fees as well when you tip our channel and others out there. So you can support our show and other creators by clicking the tip button on our webpage there for Rumble. Go to wallet.rumble.com or search Rumble Wallet in the app stores. You can step away from the big banks for good and join Rumble Wallet. All right, let's go to a few of our clips that we have in store for you, but just a shout out to our director. I think that the two first ads that we had there, both having the color green in them, I don't think that's by chance, actually. Anyway, again, happy St. Patrick's Day to you guys out there. Let's go to clip number one right here on RSBN. Actually, let's go to clip 1A, guys. Let's go to that Truth Social post where President Trump posted a message about the Save America Act this morning, saying, quote, "The Save America Act is one of the most important and consequential pieces of legislation in the history of Congress and America itself. No more rigged elections, the president says. Voter ID, proof of citizenship, no rigged mail-in voting. We are the only country in the world that allows this. No men and women's sports, no transgender mutilation of our children. 90% to 99% issues all. Only sick, demented, or deranged people in the House or Senate could vote against the Save America Act. If they do, each one of these points separately will be used against the user in his or her political campaign for office. A guaranteed loss, the president says. Get your senators, Republican or Democrat, to vote yes on the Save America Act. I will never, ever endorse anyone who votes against Save America. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. That from the president earlier this morning. Speaking of the president, right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network, along with the vice president, they introduced the anti-fraud task force yesterday. Let's go to clip one.
When you look at the Minnesota scam, a lot of it has to do with Somalia. Nobody's calling out anybody, but a lot of it has to do, but it's Somalia and plenty of others. And I believe the governor is complicit. I believe Ilhan Omar is complicit. I believe that your attorney general is complicit. And if they are, you're going to hopefully find out about it. And you're going to have to do what you have to do. If we found half of the fraud that's taking place in this country, and I think you have a chance of doing that, we would have much more than a balanced budget. That's the kind of numbers you're talking about. The theft is incredible.
All right, so going from the anti-fraud task force announced, as you saw here on Right Side Broadcasting Network yesterday, whether you're watching live or on replay, the president also spoke about the nation of Cuba yesterday. Let's take a look at clip two.
But I think Cuba see the end. You know, all my life I've been hearing about the United States and Cuba. When will the United States do it? I do believe I'll be having the honor of taking Cuba. That'd be good. That's a big honor.
Taking Cuba.
Taking Cuba in some form, yeah. Taking Cuba. I mean, whether I free it, take it, I think I could do anything I want with it. You want to know the truth? They're a very weakened nation right now. They were for a long time. Very violent leaders. Castro was a very violent leader. His brother's a very violent leader. Extremely violent. That's how they governed. They governed with violence. But a lot of people would like to go back.
All right, so we're just going through, obviously, some of the headlines in the 24/7 news cycle. A lot of stories happening even today, this morning, of course, with DHS, TSA, and all of those lines that we're seeing at the airports. I saw at one of the airports that they're putting down cots in the actual airport for tons of people. I think this was in Houston. So quite the interesting situation out there for the government shutdown, this partial government shutdown. Of course, the Department of Homeland Security, the Transportation Security Administration, both dealing with situations where they're not getting the funding, which is causing all sorts of problems, not only with travel, but then on top of that, think about it, Department of Homeland Security, if you're not paying the people that are guarding the homeland when it comes to a number of things. I mean, not great to see that. All right, it's 10/23, Tuesday, March 17th. Let's continue on here on Right Side, where there's a new White House video out there about saving college sports. Let's check it out, especially as March Madness is just getting kicked off.
We're gathered today to discuss an important threat to the integrity and culture of college sports, the inability to set rules on eligibility, transfers, name, image, and likeness, and more, much more than that. So we have to save college sports. I think it's just a very, very important meeting. We have the most important people in college sports and really beyond.
You know, just being an old football coach, it's unlikely for me to be in a situation where I'll be speaking to such a distinguished group, but I do think there's a question we all need to ask is, you know, what are the future guidance that we want to create for college athletics?
As people talk to me about this issue, they said one thing: the only person who could bring us together to reach a consensus is President Trump.
This is a topic and an issue that's important to all Americans. It's a cornerstone of our culture, the cornerstone of our Olympic development system, and provides opportunity for so many kids across the country.
There are 556,000 young people playing college sports right now across all 50 states. They will tell you
that this is one of the most formative and important parts of their collegiate experience.
I think college sports is one of the greatest things this country has going, and we're at a time period where we really need the help of Congress and the government and all come together and speak in one unified voice to really make sure that we keep college sports healthy.
But it's very, very important that legislators get involved because we need some parameters right now, and the law and Congress can make that happen.
We all know college sports is uniquely American. It's something that began here in the mid-1800s and has continued to grow and draw people in. And from my perspective, the attention paid by President Trump to college sports is an important part of his leadership.
We cannot continue to have an environment where NIL is out of control.
And I think this requires people coming together and thinking about solutions so that we can maintain the vital passion around college sports in this country.
The time is now for really the leaders in college sports to come together, figure out solutions, and make sure we can move into the future with really kind of great momentum and assurances that we can keep college sports special.
All right, so tracking some of the latest videos out there from the White House, also tracking some of the stories that we're seeing coming across the desk here on Right Side Broadcasting Network, including the Save America Act being debated. I believe we're seeing that that's going to start today. And then last week, the Senate Majority Leader John Thune said that the vote would actually take place tomorrow, so Wednesday, March 18th. So obviously today's Tuesday, March 17th, so there's a bit of a debate. We'll see how that all transpires. We'll be watching that story. Of course, the president meeting with the leader of Ireland this morning. We're going to have that video for you as it happens live here on the network. And then later today, another St. Patrick's style of event with the president. We'll have that coverage that starts at about 5 o'clock as we're monitoring various stories again happening throughout the news cycle. Let's go to a few of our sponsors, including All Family Pharmacy. You need a pharmacy that actually supports your medical freedom, of course, one that works smarter, not harder. You can forget about the doctor visits, the long pharmacy lines, or dealing with insurance approvals. That system's slow and frustrating and outdated. And there's just one pharmacy, though, and you see it right there on your screen. They're doing this in a better way. That's All Family Pharmacy. You simply go online, you choose the medications you need, you fill out a quick medical form, and a licensed doctor reviews your request. So, if appropriate, they provide the prescription. Then your order ships directly to your door. You can stock up on essentials like antibiotics, antivirals, ivermectin, mebendazole, NAD+, and more than 300 other prescription medications that families rely on every day throughout this country. So if you believe in being prepared and having access to the medications you need, this is one of the smartest moves you can make within this industry. Just go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Also, Angel Paste out of Spring, Texas. If you're looking for some skincare products, you get it right there with Angel Paste. You have the Miracle Cream. There's a number of mists that you can check out too. Just go to angelpaste.com. At checkout, use the RSBN promo code. If you're looking for a gift for a loved one or just, re-upping on the skincare products, you can get that right there. Angelpaste.com. Two great sponsors, plus all of our great sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Let's move on to a video between the Hillsdale College in Michigan, one that the late, great Charlie Kirk spoke very highly of, and of course the White House. The White House and the Hillsdale College have released a number of documentaries about our nation's upcoming 250th birthday. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to that. But before we do, when we come back from that video, there's a number of Save America Act posts that have happened from various senators and congressmen and women that we're going to go to. We have a number of live interviews that we have lined up here as well, on top of seeing the president there and the leader of Ireland, Michael Martin. And then about 12:10, we'll actually go to Capitol Hill for another event that the president will be taking part in. So we're covering what's going on today, and glad to have you here with us. Let's go to clip number 4.
Welcome to this week's Reflective Moments of America's Military, a weekly segment where we take you through some of the major events from the U.S. military's 250-year history. On March 13, 1942, Secretary of War Robert B. Patterson established the U.S. Army's K-9 Corps. These first K-9 recruits were sent to training centers for 8 to 12 weeks of rigorous instruction in a variety of crucial roles. Over 1,600 military working dogs continue to serve the front lines today and have participated in every major conflict from Korea and Vietnam to Iraq and Afghanistan. On March 16, 1802, President Thomas Jefferson formally established two of the nation's most enduring institutions, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the United States Military Academy at West Point. The act uniquely intertwined the two, declaring that the newly organized Corps of Engineers shall be stationed at West Point in the state of New York and shall constitute a military academy. On March 18th, we recognize Charley Pride's birthday. Before he became a country music legend, Charley Pride put his baseball career on hold to serve his country. While stationed at Fort Carson, Pride played for the fort's baseball team. After his honorable discharge in 1958, he decided to travel to Nashville on the path to launching his legendary music career.
When I was a kid, people often spoke of the American dream. It was usually described in terms of the hope that honest middle-class families could own a home, care for their loved ones, and leave their children better off than themselves. Many of my friends' parents had lived through the Great Depression, and some fought in World War II. They knew privation, grief, and sacrifice. It shouldn't surprise us that their understanding of the American dream was largely rooted in a sense of material security. And yet, I would suggest that this desire for economic security was undergirded by something more profound: the aspiration for spiritual freedom, the freedom to live in accord with one's conscience and to follow the teaching of one's religious beliefs. This reverence for Americans' religious convictions formed the bedrock of our country from the beginning. Some might say this notion of spiritual freedom belongs to the private sphere. It is a matter of personal practice and not of public affairs. Some might even argue that to debase matters of religion to those of politics is to muddy the waters of public discourse with pious sentiments. One of the most prominent voices of the American Revolution, Thomas Jefferson. A deist and one of the founders most influenced by the Enlightenment thinkers, Jefferson nevertheless wrote just 5 years after drafting the Declaration, "Can the liberties of a nation be thought secure when we remove their only firm basis, a conviction in the minds of the people that these liberties are the gift of God?" And to that question, Jefferson and his fellow founders would have said no. Rights, as understood by the drafters of the Declaration and the Constitution, are not conjured into existence by political consensus, nor are they granted by parliaments or princes. Our rights exist not on parchment alone, but on the immutable foundation of the laws of nature and nature's God. That is to say that even if the drafters of the Constitution disregarded a fundamental right to life, the American people, just like every people across history, can claim a share of that right, or that gift, as Jefferson recognized, because of the basic fact that life comes not from the government, but from God. This is the animating principle behind what the founders called natural rights. Rights inherent to the human person, not because of race or wealth or nationality, but because of the dignity bestowed by the Creator. As Alexander Hamilton put it 1 year before the signing of the Declaration of Independence, the sacred rights of mankind are not to be rummaged for among old parchments or musty records. They are written as with a sunbeam in the whole volume of human nature by the hand of divinity itself, and can never be erased or obscured by mortal power. In our day, I fear that we are at risk of losing this metaphysical grounding of a person's rights. There seems to be no limit to the number or kinds of rights individuals can claim. Rights have become assertions of will, often severed from truth or justice. Sadly, deeply immoral acts are often defended under the banner of individual rights. But I would posit to you that this conception of rights is really a misconception. Rights do not exist just because we say they do. And here I call to mind one of my intellectual heroes, St. Thomas Aquinas. Aquinas rarely spoke of rights in the plural. Instead, he referred to the Latin word jus, which means the right understood not as a claim, but as that which is due to another. In Thomistic terms, a right is what justice demands, as measured by the divine order. By this he meant something in accord with God's design for mankind and the universe. This is a far more substantive and sobering understanding of rights. It places rights not in the realm of popular preference or ever-evolving societal demands, but in the realm of respect for the human person and the common good. At the same time, the natural law tradition insists that these principles of freedom, justice, rights, and responsibilities are not hidden from us. On the contrary, these fundamental truths are accessible to all, discoverable by natural reason, written, as St. Paul says, in their hearts. This is precisely the claim made in the opening of the Declaration of Independence, that the American cause is justified not by majority will nor sectarian creed, but by the self-evident truth that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Importantly, the Declaration's appeal to the British is not a democratic one. The colonists did not declare political independence from their ancestral homeland simply because the majority agreed. No, the appeal of the Declaration was fundamentally moral and philosophical. It was a practical application of moral reason to political grievance. In the estimation of the signers of the Declaration, British governance had devolved from stewardship into tyranny. In fact, they all agreed in the Declaration that the Crown involved itself in circumstances of cruelty and perfidy scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages, and totally unworthy of the head of a civilized nation. This claim is not for mere rhetorical flourish, rather, it signals a moral judgment. The abuses of the Crown were more than an inconvenience, they were a grave injustice. The signers of the Declaration committed a revolutionary act, one that led to a devastating war. Yet they acted to restore the moral law that had been lost, the rights that we are given by God. And while it's impossible for us to know the thoughts within the hearts and minds of men, I believe it was the conscience, the inner witness of the divine law that stirred many of the founders to affix their names to the Declaration. Conscience is the key to understanding how the founders accessed the truths of the eternal law and applied them to their circumstances. The Second Vatican Council in Gaudium et Spes describes conscience as the most secret core and sanctuary of a man. There he's alone with God, whose voice echoes in its depths. The founders' defense of the colonists was not only an act of courage, but one of justice. Prior to America's founding, many nations only recognized the rights of a privileged few. But the Declaration laid the foundation for recognizing the rights of all Americans. Now, this promise of liberty was not fulfilled instantaneously. It took a bloody civil war and many courageous abolitionists to end the sin of slavery and respect the dignity of all persons. But from the very beginning, our founders understood that rights do not exist within a vacuum. With every right comes responsibilities to our families, our fellow citizens, and our Creator. In other words, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness does not render the political order neutral on questions of good and evil. It does not leave us in a naked public square, to use Father Richard John Newhouse's famous phrase. Rather, it presumes that citizens are moral actors, capable of discerning the good and obligated to pursue it. The Founding Fathers anticipated that the American people would not passively receive dictates from the state as distant subjects, but that they would actively participate in moral and political deliberations as citizens. This is why George Washington famously said in his farewell address, "Of all the dispositions and habits which lead to political prosperity, religion and morality are indispensable supports. In vain would that man claim the tribute of patriotism, who should labor to subvert these great pillars of human happiness, these firmest props of the duties of men, and citizens. Today, nearly 250 years after the birth of our republic, we find ourselves the recipients of this great moral inheritance. For if our rights are real, then so too are our responsibilities. To be an American citizen is to be entrusted with the freedom to pursue the good, the duty to care for our neighbors and uphold justice, and the burden and the privilege of conscience. May we prove worthy of it.
Before you know it, it'll be July 4th, 2026. Our nation will be 250 years young. So that video with the Hillsdale College and the White House, thought we'd share that with you here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. A lot of news going on as well. We're going to talk more about the Save America Act and some developing news that we're tracking as well. Before we get to that, if you'd like to donate to Right Side, all you have to do is go to rsbnetwork.com/donate as we continue to grow and expand here at the network, covering a lot of the political events as you guys see day in and day out. We can do that all day long. We have done that for 10 plus years. Glad to have you here with us. So if you'd like to donate, rsbnetwork.com/donate. Also, mypillow.com/RSBN. The Mega Sale 2.0, it's out there for you. Also, the free shipping. So it's a good combination of great products, good prices, free shipping, and on top of that, supporting a great conservative, patriotic person in Mike Lindell running for governor in Minnesota, and the great mypillow.com as well. So mypillow.com/RSBN. Great to have MyPillow as a sponsor here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Before we get to some more videos and more of the latest from the nation's capital, on Capitol Hill when it comes to the Save America Act, it looks like today will be the day that they start debating this act. And again, I've been saying this for maybe about a week and a half now. What is there to debate when it comes to saving America, right? We heard from President Trump earlier talking about this as well. In the meantime, one of the stories that is making its rounds out there is the fact that Joe Kent, he was the director of the National Counterterrorism Center. He's decided to resign from his position as director of the National Counterterrorism Center effective today. I cannot in good conscience, according to Joe Kent here saying this, quote, I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. This, according to Joe Kent. It has been an honor serving under POTUS and DNI Gabbard and leading the professionals at NCTC. May God bless America. So the receipts are on his X page there, and the photo of the statement. Again, he was the director of the National Counterterrorism Center. He has resigned. In other news, let's go to the Save America Act now, as the Utah Senator Mike Lee posted this message yesterday talking about the Save America Act. Here's clip number 9.
It's been about 2 years since Chip Roy and I wrote the SAVE Act, which later became the Save America Act. Tomorrow, this is going to come to fruition as the Save America Act comes to the floor of the United States Senate. I invite all within the sound of my voice who would like this bill to become law to reach out to as many people as possible, friends, neighbors, especially United States senators who might listen to you. Ask them, please get this passed. Tell them we need to invoke the talking filibuster in the United States Senate. No zombie filibuster will suffice on this one. We've got to turn to this bill, we've got to debate it, and we've got to stay on the bill until it becomes law. There can be no surrender, there can be no ifs, ands, or buts, there can be no cheap imitations here. The Republic is on the line. Let's get this done.
So that was Utah Senator Mike Lee speaking about the Save America Act. Before we continue on with some more of those stories, when it comes to the Save America Act, we're looking at a video now from Pix 11 in New York City, breaking that there is a massive fire that has engulfed a building in New York City. I wouldn't go as far to say it's a massive fire. I've seen a few video pictures of it, but we're tracking that. That's in Midtown Manhattan right now. It's a fire on top of a roof of a building near the St. Patrick's Day parade that is going on there in New York. We'll follow any developments if there are any more than maybe an electrical malfunction, that kind of thing. Again, it doesn't they're saying this massive fire engulfs building. I wouldn't go that far, but anyway, it's a smaller fire on top of a building there. Now, it could be a huge fire within the building. I don't know. I'm not there. We're just tracking just different stories that are happening right now on Truth Social and on X. Speaking of that, let's go from Utah to Louisiana, where Senator Bill Cassidy is also on board for the Save America Act. Let's go to clip 10.
The Save America Act is simple, reasonable, and widely supported. Cut off the Senate floor speaking about the Save America Act. You know, the crazy idea that you'd have to show a picture ID when you vote, just like when you get on an airplane, just like when you buy a gun, you got to prove who you are when you vote. Can you believe it? When you hear from Senate Democrats that they refuse to support the Save America Act, you kind of scratch your head. Again, we use an ID for so many other things. By the way, here's the poster I use. I think you can read it like that. It's a lot easier to show your picture ID when you go to vote than it is to read that sign. I ask my Senate Democratic colleagues to remember this. You demand an ID to buy a gun, but you won't require it to cast a vote. My gosh, Democrats, vote for the Save America.
All right, so Bill Cassidy out of Louisiana speaking about the Save America Act. Shifting gears now, of course, we'll go back to that in just a minute, as that's one of the main stories of the day. Obviously, Operation Epic Fury ongoing in the Middle East as well. We're also going to see President Trump meeting with the Irish leader here coming up in just a minute. So that'll be at 11 o'clock. Let's go over some of those details before we move on. The president will meet with the Taoiseach of Ireland, Michael Martin, about 11 this morning, so about 15 or so minutes from now. If it's on time. And then at 12:10 Eastern, the president will participate in the Friends of Ireland luncheon inside the U.S. Capitol building. We'll have both of those events. So one at the White House, one on Capitol Hill at the Capitol building. And then tonight at 5:20, the president participates in the Shamrock Bowl presentation in the East Room of the White House. Our coverage will start with Robert McNeely right here at 5 o'clock a little bit later. So a little bit of a twofer, as they say, or a doubleheader here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, covering the president, covering the White House, and conservative angles of news and just news in general out there that's happening. So 10:47 Tuesday, March 17th. Let's do this. Let's see. Do we have our live guest and director? Okay. So we'll be going to Arizona here in just a minute, but before we do, why don't we go to, let's see, the president speaking about home ownership recently. Let's go to that clip posted on his Truth Social account just last night, clip 11.
Today I'm signing 2 historic executive orders continuing my administration's efforts to help more of our citizens achieve the dream of home ownership. It's called the American Dream. Thanks to our purchase of $200 billion in mortgage bonds, mortgage rates recently reached the lowest level in 5 years. This dramatically reduces monthly payments for new home buyers. The annual cost of the typical new mortgage is down almost $5,000 since I took office. I'm very proud of that. I also signed an executive order to stop Wall Street and large institutional investment firms from buying up all the single-family homes in the scheme to turn them into rentals and make lots of money in doing it. We want America to be a nation of owners, not renters. Today, I'm taking action to help reduce rates even more and make it much easier to build new homes in America. The first executive order is about bringing more community banks back into the mortgage business. 2 decades ago, over 5,000 community banks were offering mortgages. Today, that number has been slashed by more than 50%, largely because of burdensome, unnecessary regulations that radical liberals imposed on community lenders for the benefit of their donors on Wall Street and, frankly, for the benefit of themselves. The result was less competition and higher mortgage rates for hardworking Americans like you. That is why, under my order, we will eliminate the thicket of unnecessary rules and restrictions that crippled community banks. They've been hurt so badly. We're bringing them back. When more local banks start offering mortgages again, fees will go down, costs will fall, and home buyers will be able to get a mortgage under the more affordable terms that we're insisting on. The second executive order I'm signing today will help lower construction costs for building new homes so that home builders can offer Americans more affordable options. I'm going to sign them right now. No auto pen, okay? That's my real signature. It's not an auto pen like you had in the past. As part of the Green New scam, the Biden administration and many state and local governments added endless, ridiculous regulations that raised construction costs very, very substantially. With my order today, we will slash many of these pointless regulations that do nothing for safety and add lots of costs. It's really unfair to the home buyers, and ultimately, they're the ones paying for this disaster. Under the Trump administration, we want to make it possible for every American to live that American dream in a beautiful home, and it's really the one that they pick. It's going to be the apple of their eye. So I just want to thank everybody. Our country is doing really well. It's being thought of all over the world with great respect again, more than maybe it's ever had. Thank you very much. Have a good time.
And that video just posted last night on Truth Social. Before we get to our live interview in Arizona, let's go to Florida in the sense of Florida Representative Ana Paulina Luna speaking about the Save America Act, clip 12.
So this week, the Senate is going to do something called a show vote, meaning it is a vote that they know is not going to pass because they are so sick and tired of the American people raking them over the coals, and rightfully so, for not passing the Save America Act. They're hoping that you do not know what's happening, that you are not informed, and they are hoping that this vote will get you off their back, which is exactly why I'm informing you guys on what their little plan is. So call your senators and ask them, where do you stand on this standing filibuster? If they're not for it, that means that they're part of the problem and they need to go. So aside from that, if they don't do their job, which I'm not holding my breath because if I did, I'd probably pass out, we are going to attach the Save America Act to FISA. That's really the only way that we can get this done. This is something that many Republicans campaigned on in the midterms and a bare basic in trying to secure elections, which is why the Democrats are so much opposed to it. Anyways, we'll give you guys updates, but remember, they're sending over some legislation this week to get passed, and it's not going to get passed.
All right, so from Florida, let's go now to the Southwest in Arizona. Joining us now is Arizona State Representative Rachel Keschel. Thanks so much for joining us once again, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you for having me on as always.
Definitely. Let's talk about this. I mean, the Save America Act, plus we can dive into some politics in Arizona. We know that, man, Maricopa County, we still wish Kari Lake was the governor there. I know a lot of people do, but your thoughts about the Save America Act? They're going to debate it today and then possibly vote tomorrow.
Well, it's really shocking to me that in the United States of America, we're having to pass laws that ensure that people are citizens to vote and that people have valid ID. That still shocks me. It's been, yes, very interesting out here in Arizona. I'm on the elections committee, and there was a committee hearing a few weeks ago. There were some very left-leaning lobbyists, let's put it that way, and Representative Gillette had a bill that was basically ensuring that we could verify citizenship in Arizona elections. It was using the DHS system to do so, and as they spoke, I asked one of them, do you believe you should be a U.S. citizen to vote? And he kind of danced around the answer. So Representative Alex Collin, who is running against the very corrupt Adrian Fontes for Secretary of State, he pushed and he said, wait, I'm not going to let you off the hook. Do you believe you should be a U.S. citizen to vote in our elections? All three of those left-leaning lobbyists could not answer the question directly. And as I picked my jaw up off the table that they had just said the quiet part out loud by not answering, I mean, it was just shocking to me. So we've got to get this through. This is the bare minimum we need to do to get our elections on track. 2/3 of Americans do not trust the process. We need to instill some faith back into elections because a lot of people are to the point where why should I even vote? You know, they don't trust that their vote counts.
Exactly, and I was speaking with Joey Vasquez with the Media Research Center. We were talking about just that peace of mind. Think about if you were going to vote in the federal election, which hopefully everybody does that is of voting age. When you're going to that precinct and you think, okay, well, at least we know this. Everybody has to show a photo ID. Everybody has to prove that they're a citizenship. The mail-in ballots are only for medical and military and others. You know, like that, to your point, that's really what people want to know. And it would be awful if this Save America Act just doesn't pass. And then to Seth Keshel's point just yesterday, your husband, of course, he said we'd have to shift over to the states then to get the job done. Your thoughts about that?
Well, you can see out here in Arizona what a disaster that's been. As you said, we were supposed to have Kari Lake in the governor's seat. When you said that's a shame, you have no idea. As a legislator, it's been a nightmare. I think Katie Hobbs has vetoed over 400 bills at this point in time. It's a record for the most vetoes by any governor. Wow. It's all sorts of legislation, but absolutely on the election integrity legislation, she vetoes that. And I'm not sure why this has become such a partisan issue. Everybody, whether you're a Democrat, an independent, a Republican, you should want to make sure that your vote counts, that you can trust your election process. So out here in Arizona with Katie Hobbs on the 9th floor, Adrian Fontes in the Secretary of State office, and then of course Chris Mays in the Attorney General's office, we're not getting a whole lot done at the legislative level. I think the chance to do that would have been when we had Doug Ducey, Governor Ducey, and a Republican legislature when we kind of started realizing what a debacle the 2020 election was. But unfortunately, I think it was so short after that happened that we just didn't have time. So when we had a new legislature come in 23, when I was first elected, it didn't matter what kind of legislation we passed to fix our elections, Katie Hobbs was going to veto it. So we're stuck now. We've got to get Andy Biggs in there. We have to get a better governor.
Yeah, Andy Biggs would be awesome in Arizona. Arizona is such a wonderful state, right? Just the beauty alone in that state. My wife and I went to AmFest, a few years back, went to Sedona. That's where we got engaged. I mean, Arizona is beautiful, and there's a lot of great patriots there, but Katie Hobbs is not one of them. Now, let's talk about some of these vetoes before I let you go here. I'll talk about one, and if you could talk about another after we kind of react to it, because she said that the Charlie Kirk license plate, the custom plate, she vetoed that. There's a list a mile long of custom license plates in Arizona. What's wrong with honoring the legacy of Charlie Kirk? I mean, others have been honored in general, right? Why not him?
Right. Well, and Charlie Kirk was assassinated in cold blood, whether you agreed with his politics or not. It's, as you said, we have a long list of special plates in Arizona. I don't know why this has to become such an issue where, their narrative is that he was a racist, he was a bigot, he was all these types of things, but the man was assassinated. And when you're in Arizona politics, he is just such a centerpiece of that. He was such a centerpiece of that. So I think she just showed their true colors with that veto. There is no reason that should have been a veto. She made it very clear where she stands, that she's going to stand on the side of, false narratives and basically saying it's okay for someone to be assassinated for their political beliefs, for using their First Amendment rights. That's what she and all of the Democrats said. It was shocking to me.
Yeah, it's shocking.
Not surprising in some ways, though.
Yeah, exactly. And on the other side of this false narrative is the truth. And I think that's what it's all about, right? It's the truth. And Charlie Kirk would speak truth. And just because it would be true, they would label him on all these things. They, meaning just the mainstream media maybe, or the activists and all that. Anyway, it gets me fired up with that whole thing. It really does. I mean, Charlie was, come on, how awesome was he for the conservative movement, for freedom, for the truth, and that she would not allow that to be on a custom license plate. Last question for you. Thanks again for joining us. And for those of you that are just joining us, this is Arizona State Representative Rachel Keshel on the right side of history out there in Arizona. The Save America Act, we talked about that, but it's tough to see what's going on right now because we're seeing the Democrats, you know how they say, and I know I'm lost for words right now, but I'm trying to pinpoint the fact that Democrats are saying the quiet part out loud, right? That's kind of what they're doing. They're vetoing something like that, or they're against the Save America Act. So what should we do as we the people, in your opinion, to step up our game in messaging, to step up our game in the love for God, family, and country? Because this is a totally different playing field than it was even 2 years ago.
Yeah, well, as you said, for God, family, and country, you've got to be bold in speaking the truth. You just mentioned Charlie Kirk, not to bring him up again, but he was so important to this new generation of young people too, because we have not been able to have respectful dialogue for a long time. It's very sad to me with my young adult age children that you can't just have a conversation with someone who does not agree like you. But you have to be bold in speaking the truth. I've always been that as a legislator. I'm very much well known for that. Seth calls me a flamethrower on the House floor. But we have to just continue to drive forward. And we are changing the trajectory of the voting block, I think. If you were to talk to Seth, he would show you that the voter registration trend in Arizona is swinging very far to the right. We actually look like Florida, according to him, which is very exciting. But again, I'm going to go back to, if you don't go out and use your one voice, which is your vote, to select your elected officials. Now, I know there's fraud and we're trying to correct that. But if you don't vote, you automatically hand it to the enemy. So we have to go out and vote in droves. I mean, that is really what happened in some of the recent Arizona elections. I know in 22, Kari Lake completely got ripped off. There were ballots being shoved into black bags and machines going down. It was very obvious what was happening, but that's because so many people were coming out to support her. So it is getting too big to rig in Arizona, so to speak. I really do believe that. And if you talk to Seth, he can give you the data to show that. So we just need to keep pressing forward.
Yeah, amen. You keep going no matter what. It's the truth right there. Arizona State Representative Rachel Keschel, thank you so much again for joining us here on Right Side. And tell the people that are rock star patriot, we the people, lovers of God, family, country there in Arizona, that we said hello and that we love them. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, it's 11:02, Tuesday, March 17th. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you. We're going to see the president here in just a minute as he is welcoming the leader of Ireland, of course, at 11. So just about now, it'll be the Taoiseach of Ireland, Michael Martin. And then at 12:10 Eastern Time, the president will participate in the Friends of Ireland luncheon inside the U.S. Capitol building. Tonight at 5 o'clock Eastern, you can join us for our second live broadcast of the day as the president participates in the Shamrock Bowl presentation in the East Room of the White House. All right, let's go to a few of our sponsors as we continue on talking about a number of topics, as you guys have seen if you've been watching since the top of last hour, 10 o'clock. But Birch Gold Group, a great sponsor here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. And we've been talking about 2006 a lot because in 2006, $20,000 equaled roughly 33 ounces of gold at spot price. And at today's prices, those 33 ounces would be worth about $165,000. Smart Americans are diversifying a portion of their savings into precious metals, and that's why you might want to consider buying from our friends at Birch Gold Group. Of course, buying gold, silver, precious metals. For thousands of years, gold has been a store of wealth, and today it's a crucial part of any financial balanced strategy. Even better, Birch Gold can help you actually convert an existing IRA or a 401k into a tax-sheltered retirement account in gold. All you have to do to get the ball rolling is text Trump to the number you see on your screen, 989898, to receive that free info kit on gold. No obligation, just useful information there for you. On top of that, they have that A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers. So text Trump to 989898 and get more information today with Birch Gold Group. Let's also go to one of our other sponsors here at Right Side. You see covepure.com/RSBN. Drink pure, live pure, Cove Pure. We can tell you more about that specifically as we know that Cove Pure is basically saying this. That most people tend to go overboard buying these new supplements, trying a new diet or workout. But a lot of people completely ignore the most important basic thing, their water. Because even mild dehydration impacts energy, focus, and metabolism. And when you think about all of the garbage that's in tap water, you're starting behind the curve before you even begin. But Cove Pure changes that whole thing immediately. They have that clear wave technology. It's certified to remove 99.9% of contaminants. So pretty much anything that's not water, the PFAs or the microplastics, pharmaceutical residue, fluoride, it all gets removed. It's the purest water you can get. And on top of that, there's no aftertaste. I mean, how many times have you been either at a restaurant or at your house? If you're drinking tap water, I don't think many people do anymore, but if you do, that aftertaste is just awful. But this product right here will take care of that for you, because it's going to take away, again, all of that stuff that is awful that's in our water supply. So you can check them out if you'd like, covepure.com/RSBN. Right now you can get $250 off for a limited time if you use our link there, covepure.com/RSBN. All right, it's 11:05 Eastern time. As soon as we see that live feed at the White House, we will take you there. But as of right now, there is no live feed, so we're not going to take you there at this point. Let's do this. We're going to go to a few more videos here on Right Side Broadcasting Network as we continue to stand by for the president and the leader of Ireland, Michael Martin. What we'll do is this. Let's go to clip number one, once again, for those of you just joining us. On RSBN last night, or yesterday, the president and vice president introduced the Anti-Fraud Task Force. So let's check that out.
When you look at the Minnesota scam, a lot of it has to do with Somalia. Nobody's calling out anybody, but a lot of it has to do, but it's Somalia and plenty of others. And I believe the governor is complicit. I believe Ilhan Omar is complicit. I believe that your attorney general is complicit. And if they are, you're going to hopefully find out about it, and you're going to have to do what you have to do. If we found half of the fraud that's taking place in this country, and I think you have a chance of doing that, we would have much more than a balanced budget. That's the kind of numbers you're talking about. The theft is incredible.
All right, so we saw the president, of course, just yesterday there in the White House with the vice president. Today we'll see the president in the Oval Office with Michael Martin of Ireland. All right, in case you missed it, of course, we know this part, the Save America Act, will be up for a vote tomorrow on the Senate floor. That, according to Senate Majority Leader John Thune from last week. Well, today it looks like they're going to be debating the Save America Act. Again, every time I say that they're going to debate the Save America Act, it's why would you debate saving America? I don't know. I don't get it. I guess when it comes to common sense versus no sense at all, that's kind of the issue we run into. But let's go to Arizona once again for the election expert and author Seth Keshel, who gives us analysis, in case you missed this interview, just within the 24/7 news cycle. And joining us now is election security expert and author Seth Keshel. Thanks again for joining us, Seth.
Hey, Matt, it's always a pleasure to be on your show. Glad to be with you.
Glad to have you here. Let's dive right into your thoughts about the Save America Act going to the Senate floor, the no talking filibuster, all of that.
It's a good thing. You know, it's the number one goal for all deliberations in the Senate is to get the Save Act passed. Now, a secondary goal, if that doesn't happen, which is very possible, is just going to put a lot of people on record for exactly where they stand. Now, we know where the Democrats stand. I mean, I don't even think Senator Fetterman is behind the SAVE Act anymore, which is sort of unfortunate. But the Republican Party is hiding behind the 60-vote filibuster. So getting that out there for the people to see, so you can see not just Lisa Murkowski, but folks like John Curtis, who are going to be weak votes on this, is an important thing for the long run.
Exactly. So let's talk about what Senator Tommy Tuberville said out of Alabama, of course, running for governor in our great state of Alabama. Also, President Trump saying nuke the filibuster. I mean, in this situation, we've never done this before, except for twice for a couple nominations in 2013 and 2017. No legislation has ever had the nuke filibuster situation. But this one's about saving America. Do you think that this is something that should be done?
I think that this is about adapting to new realities. I am a pragmatist above all other ideologies. And when you look at the Democrats, next time they have Congress and the presidency, they will 100% nuke the filibuster. And they would have already done that under Biden had it not been for Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, West Virginia and Arizona senators, respectively, refusing to do that. So I think that the new law of the land here is going to be a majority rule in the Senate. It may not be the best thing in the world, but given how things are on a raid on the present day battlefield, it needs to happen. The SAVE Act has to happen.
That's a great point. It's perfectly put, especially as you said, looking into the future. Also, I understand you just released a brand new book titled The American War on Election Corruption, The Crusade to Restore Trust in Voting. I see that it's doing quite well. Tell us about that book.
I figured the book would do well. I had no idea that it would just launch like it has. It's a #1 bestseller in 3 different Amazon categories, and it's on its way to #4. I'm knocking on the door of history and political theory. I'm at #2 right now. So if today's a big day for me, I might knock down a 4th one. But the American War on Election Corruption, it's an important piece of the information war. And I make the point all the time that we have allowed the left to take over not just institutions, but all major pillars of that information battle, from media, entertainment, film, literature. So most of the accounts of election corruption in the United States aren't really highlighting election corruption. They're protecting and defending it. We have very few works. Now, Molly Hemingway's Rigged is one work, but mine is a really investigative expose through my own journey about what's going on with American elections. It's made to connect with the average reader, to see my authenticity and my background for analyzing elections and proposing a pathway forward. So I think that the response has been overwhelmingly positive. It's got a chance to be one of the preeminent books of election corruption ever written, and it's an honor to have written it.
It's awesome. It's awesome to see it having that traction out there, and also the Amazon bestseller list and all that. And it's great to have you back here on the show. To remind people how you got started in this whole thing called election integrity, election security.
Yeah, so it was a hobby for me. My background before getting interested in politics had been something building up to what I do today. I was a big but not so athletic kid growing up who loved the game of baseball. And I understood the backs of those baseball cards, the trends and the stat lines, and I was just a whiz when it came to numbers. So that led me on to Ole Miss baseball, which is a perennial powerhouse now in college baseball. But 20 years ago, it was just starting to build up. And I helped the coaching staff there develop new ways of evaluating our players and the opposition. So really a full decade ahead of advanced analytics in college baseball. Went off into the military intelligence, understanding the battlefield from a 30,000-foot view, needing to take complicated data and information and condense it into intelligence for informing the command for best courses of action, not only for keeping our soldiers alive, but for unaliving the enemy. And once I got involved in politics, it was just local, Republican Party stuff, pushing certain pillars. And I called the 2016 election accurately against all the mainstream polling showing double-digit blowout wins. I developed a model through voter registration by party that helped punch through the fraudulent polling. And in the 2020 election, of course, all those models blew up. That's one of the biggest tells. In fact, it's in the book about voter registration by party getting blown in places like Pennsylvania that suggests that the outcome that happened wasn't really the one that was going to happen. And once the election integrity movement picked up in earnest in 2021, my models, my data are easily understandable, and my platform spread. The president of the Donald Trump, in between presidencies, put me out there on a big scale, and people have relied on my insight for election forecasting and election integrity ever since, and it's an honor.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been great to see you on various conservative networks, but also whether it's the grassroots, the various Zoom calls across the country. I mean, the precinct strategies, the True the Vote, all the different places that you've been, in contact with, I believe, as an expert in this field. How do you see us moving forward if the Save America Act passes and becomes law, and if for some reason there's no nuking of the filibuster and it doesn't become law? Tell us about those crossroads right there, or the fork in the road of the future of our nation if it passes or if it fails.
If it passes, it's a critical bite at the apple of election law. Newt Gingrich wrote the foreword to my book. And the reason I asked Newt to write the foreword is to have mainstream appeal throughout the ranks of the Republican Party. You still have plenty of Trump haters in the party who think that, his big mouth or his posts are what cost the election. That book was written to change minds. Chapter 4 is called The History of Election Fraud, which details not only things that happened in recent elections, but all the way back to the 1800s. Boss Tweed, the plot to remove Abraham Lincoln in 1864 through, guess what? Mail-in ballots. So the Save America Act is an important thing. And it is not so much about illegals voting. I don't believe illegals vote. I believe they're voted for, because when they get added to the voter rolls, mail-in ballots are assigned and then harvested up over that extensive early vote period. So getting back to verifying citizenship. That guts automatic voter registration because you have to go into the office to prove your citizenship. It's going to gut online registration scams, which are also prevalent. But it's not complete because we're going to have to go through and figure out a way to address corrupted registrations from the past. I've proposed a number of drastic measures. You and I have to put a tax return in every year. We have to register our vehicle every year. Why is it such an inconvenience once in a lifetime to dump the voter rolls at an opportune time and have everyone come over with an ID and re-register to vote? I think that that's a simple solution. Now, if it does not pass, which I think is the most likely scenario, unfortunately, then it's going to be incumbent upon states to change the laws. So Newt Gingrich said he doesn't believe elections are stolen. He believes they're rigged. And I think I agree with his choice of language because when you look at the laws that the blue wall has, uniformly automatic voter registration, expanded or universal vote by mail, and then where there's vote by mail, there's extensive ballot harvesting in urban areas, especially population dense areas like projects and apartments and dormitories. So states have to fix things. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of them primed in great position to do that. Governor DeSantis signed Senate Bill 524 in Florida in 2022 and tightened the knot on mail-in ballot corruption. So he didn't restrict people from voting by mail, but those who wished to vote by mail had to verify their addresses with a postcard and send it in to get a ballot. No more automatic mail-out ballots. And that alone pushed Florida from a close race to a double-digit Republican state. The one state that is primed to follow in the same path is Arizona, if and only if Andy Biggs becomes the next governor of the state. There's a good reason to think that could happen with the voter registration advantage almost double what it was in 2022 when Hobbs ran her own election and snuck in past Kerry Lake by 17,000 ballots and retaining the legislature. They have a Florida-style count bill ready to roll.
It's awesome to hear all of the analysis when it comes to election integrity, election security, and to your point, the states, if it doesn't pass the Save America Act, it's up to the states to take care of business from there, do the right thing, of course, that we can, really have a push for that to happen as well. Seth Keshel, the election security expert and author, thank you so much for joining us. And get his new book titled The American War on Election Corruption, The Crusade to Restore Trust in Voting. Seth, thank you again for joining us.
Yep, thank you, Matt.
All right, so as we await the President of the United States there in Washington, D.C., the video of him meeting with the Irish leader, Michael Martin, and also a bit later at the U.S. Capitol building. Why don't we do this? In case you missed it, let's go to Carolyn Levitt's press conference from within the 24/7 news cycle where she spoke about the Save America Act. Let's take a look at that clip.
President Trump is urging Congress to pass the Save America Act, one of the most critical pieces of legislation in our nation's history. The Save America Act is overwhelmingly popular with all Americans because each provision is rooted in common sense. The Save America Act has 5 simple requirements as requested by the President of the United States. Number 1, voters have to show ID to cast a ballot in an American election. Very simple. 90% of Americans, including more than 80% of Democrat voters, agree with this. Number 2, the Save America Act will require all voters to show proof of citizenship in order to register to vote in American elections. Again, this is popular and rooted in common sense. Only American citizens have the right to vote in American elections. But after Joe Biden and the Democrats allowed tens of millions of illegal aliens into our country, it's more important than ever to ensure that only American citizens are registering to vote on our nation's voter rolls, and Congress needs to pass this. Number 3, the Save America Act abolishes the incredibly unsecure practice of universal mail-in ballots, which throw the door wide open for fraud. Importantly, the Save America Act maintains exceptions for Americans to use mail-in ballots for illness, disability, military, or travel reasons. The bipartisan 2005 report of the Commission on Federal Election Reform, chaired by, of all people, former President Jimmy Carter and former Secretary of State James Baker, concluded that, quote, absentee ballots remain the largest source of potential voter fraud, and it is time for Congress to finally address this. Number 4, the Save America Act permanently bans men from competing in women's sports. President Trump signed a landmark executive order upholding the promise of Title IX and ending this dangerous and unfair practice. But now it's time for Congress to codify this into law. Number 5, the Save America Act bans transgender mutilation surgery for children. Again, President Trump signed a common sense executive order to do this and kept his promise to the American people, but now Congress needs to do the same and codify it. It's well past time for Democrats in Congress to stop perpetuating the radical and false claim that you can somehow change a child's sex. You cannot. Passing the Save America Act is the most important thing that Republicans and frankly Democrats can do to strengthen election integrity and protect our democracy. It's what the American people elected Republicans to do, and they must deliver on it as soon as possible. The president is calling on Congress to get the job done and send this historic piece of legislation to his desk immediately for signature.
All right, so you just saw there Carolyn Levitt recently talking about the Save America Act. Of course, you saw, most of you may have seen that press conference right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. We're still standing by for that live video feed from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, as we'll see the president's bilateral meeting with the leader of Ireland coming up here in just a minute. It's 10:20 Central Time, 11:20 on the East Coast. Let's go to calsheet.com. You see the nice logo in the top corner, as well as we see this infographic all about calsheet.com/RSBN. You can go to the website, you can go to the QR code, you can download the app. There's a number of topics, a number of things trending out there as well. You can actually, as soon as you go to that calsheet.com/RSBN, you'll see this pop up if you're using it on the iPad or your phone. New customers only, RSBN sent you $10 on Calsheet. So there you go. You guys can take advantage of that if you'd like. A lot of different current events too. That's the thing. This isn't just something that's like 3 days ago, maybe some stale news, some topic that people are talking about. It's very fresh today. It could be about, will President Trump say St. Patrick's Day? Of course he may. We'll see. I mean, with the Irish leader in his presence, he probably will. So go to calsheet.com/RSBN. Great sponsor here. More than 1 million users on Calsheet. Let's also go to Rumble Wallet, and you can learn more about Rumble Wallet by going to their specific website that you may see on there, or at least go to that App Store or the Google Play Store and learn more about Rumble Wallet, because you may have seen the conversations happening online lately. Censorship is back, and it's happening, unfortunately, everywhere. Platforms, they're trying to control narratives and push the stuff they want us to see, so we can fight back in the information arena, the financial arena, with Rumble Wallet. Rumble is one of the only companies that has stood the test of time and deserves our support, because on one side, Rumble is challenging big tech censorship, but on the other side, they have introduced something that will give us protection from the big banks shutting us off. Some of you may know that banks can actually cancel our accounts or freeze our cards. So that's why Rumble has launched Rumble Wallet. It's a wallet that no one can cancel, and a wallet that supports a number of supporters like us. You can use to instantly tip creators like us without any middleman taking the cuts. So Rumble Wallet, with this app and this wallet, you can control your money. Not a bank, not a government, not a tech company, not even Rumble can touch it. It's yours and only yours. Yours to protect your future and family. So this is what you can do. You can buy and save digital assets like Bitcoin and Tether Gold in one place. Tether Gold is the real gold on the blockchain with ownership of physical gold bars. So you can get all of the information you need. Just go to rumble.com. So wallet.rumble.com for more information, or type in Rumble Wallet when you're at your various app stores and just give it a look-see, as they say. You can open up an account, step away from the big banks, and go with Rumble Wallet. Great sponsor here at Right Side. And of course, thank you so much for watching us on Rumble as well out there and various other platforms. All right, it's 11:23. It's Tuesday, March 17th, and it's St. Patrick's Day. And I was looking at the census just yesterday, just typing in Grok, and I asked, how many Irish Americans are there? And it said that nearly 40 million have reported Irish ancestry on the 2020 U.S. Census. So nearly 40 million people, including me. I've got a little bit of Irish. My grandma had some Irish. So, hey, that's kind of cool. All right, anyway, so let's do this. Let's go to Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville. He recently spoke with us about the Save America Act and other topics. Here's that interview from clip 7. And joining us now is the Alabama United States Senator, Coach Tommy Tuberville. Coach, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Let's get right into Sharia law. We had a guest on prior to you that was breaking down what Sharia law is. He was Iranian-born, Muslim, Shiite, now a Christian, a host, a pastor, talking about Sharia law. So, yeah, your thoughts about that awful, awful law?
Yeah, Sharia law is not a religion, it's a cult. And we'd better start understanding that, because the cult is coming our direction. We have several million now that are basically studying Sharia law. They're trying to teach it in their schools. You know, we've got a lot of Islamists here that are not here to assimilate. And we all love immigrants, and most of us are immigrants in one way or the other. But as we came over, we assimilated. We went by the rules, we went by the laws, we went by the Constitution. We believed in this country, we love this country. All Sharia law does is teach death to America. And to me, that right there, you know, if you're studying Sharia law, you don't fit into this country. Now, in my state of Alabama, we have banned Sharia law, which is good, but we've got to make sure we enforce it. So future, possibly being governor, I'll make sure that that happens in the state of Alabama.
100%, and the people of Alabama are behind you with that. And of course, across the country, I mean, we know that the United States Constitution, as we've heard it before, is the law of the land, not Sharia law. So we see that you're doing great work to make sure the Constitution stays the law of the land. Let's also go to the Save America Act. In order to keep this going, we have to show some ID, don't we, sir?
We have to show ID. We don't need ballot harvesting. We have to have same-day voting. There are several things that have to be involved in the Save America Act. We have to remember there's 15 states in this country that there's no possible way any Republican can ever win, because it's all rigged, from the voting machines to harvest balloting to counting votes 2 or 3, 4 days later. I mean, it's nonsense. And then you go back to just the most important thing is they're allowing people to vote in elections that are not citizens of this country. I mean, it shouldn't happen. And so the Save America Act, as President Trump keeps pushing, we have to make sure that we do our part up here. We have to pass it. We have no choice, because if we allow these 15 states to rig their states, and then all they have to do is get a half a dozen more, and the leadership changes in the Senate and the House, and then possibly even in the future after President Trump's gone, even in the White House, we cannot allow a Democrat to even get close to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue again. If we do, we've lost this country. The borders will be open. Everything will be no law enforcement, and the American citizens that love this country are going to be a second-class citizen. We're going to turn this country into a third world country.
It's exactly what people are saying out there. You're speaking our language. You know, we the people listen to our leaders like you, sir, and we agree with that. And specifically within the Save America Act, one more question there. Are you on the nuke the filibuster train?
100%. I mean, and we have to do it. Let me tell you why. We're going around this country now, and I have friends in airports and have family in airports, and people are traveling. People are going through cities. Law enforcement is trying their best. DHS is trying their best. The things that are going on right now with the TSA, there's a 3, 4, 5 hour wait sometimes in the lines. And you're hearing people say, you know, I don't know whether I'm ever going to vote Republican again, because they will not fix this. And my colleagues go, well, it's not our fault, it's the Democrats' fault. No, it's our fault, because if we nuke the filibuster, we can fix everything in this country. But if we refuse to nuke the filibuster, yes, we are going to get blamed for it next November, and we're going to get run out of Dodge all across the Congress and the Senate.
So would you say nuking the filibuster is one of the biggest things that can really save the country right now?
100%. It's the only thing that's going to save the country. If they get in charge again, it's going to be over with, because they will bust it once they first get in. And so they will make it so hard on us to be able to gain control in the House, the Senate, or the White House, because it's going to be rampant open borders, rampant cheating with people that are not citizens of this country. We'll see a $50 to $60 trillion budget deficit so fast, because they will be giving away money like candy. And I don't think we understand that up here. I don't think my colleagues understand. We are getting the blame for this. I mean, we're saying, hey, we're voting for it. No, we're not. We could pass it today. We could pass the SAVE Act today. We could fund the government today. All we got to do is say 51 votes. Now, I'm not sure we can get 51 votes out of the Republicans. We've got a lot of people that don't believe a lot of things that you and I believe in to save this country. They're more on the Democratic side. So I would hope that we could do this. But the problem is there's too many distractions in the way.
It's a lot to take in. Let's talk about two more things before I let you go. Thanks again for spending the time with us. I know you're running for governor right here in the state of Alabama. Can you talk to us about your campaign, and also how proud are you to have the U.S. Space Command in Huntsville, Alabama?
Well, we've got a great state, and a great state that's really, really growing. We've grown almost more than most states in the country. Especially in the Southeast. We've overtaken Georgia, we've overtaken Mississippi, we've overtaken Florida of growth. I'm talking about growing people coming in. I spoke in Huntsville, Alabama yesterday, and they are growing 17 people a day in just that one city. And so we got a great place to live. Huntsville is the rocket city. It's the place where we have Army Material Command, we have the Missile Defense Agency, we have all kind of people that work and build missiles. I think we have 300 different contractors. And as you just said, we got Space Command. Space Command controls everything from no matter what, private or military, that goes into space. And they're moving to Huntsville, and it's going to be a lot of new jobs, a lot of growth. But again, it's a special place because of all the things we have there space-wise already. They're going to work very well together. And President Trump was right when he gave it to us the first time. Joe Biden moved it to Colorado Springs, but now President Trump's moving it back.
And it's great to see that it's coming back to Alabama. Senator Tommy Tuberville, we thank you for what you do for us as we the people. Please keep up the good work. Thank you again, sir.
Thank you. God bless.
God bless you. All right, let's go to a few of our sponsors as we await that live feed to the White House. Let's go to All Family Pharmacy. And of course, you may need a pharmacy that actually supports your medical freedom, and one that works smarter, not harder. And you can forget about those doctor visits, long pharmacy lines, or dealing with insurance approvals, because that system can be slow, frustrating, and outdated. So one pharmacy is doing this in a better way, and that's All Family Pharmacy, as you see there on your screen. You go online, you choose the medications you need, you fill out that quick medical form, then a licensed doctor reviews your request, and then if appropriate, they'll provide the prescription. It's as simple as that. Then your order ships directly to your door. So you can stock up on essentials like antibiotics, antivirals, ivermectin, mebendazole, NAD+, and over 300 other prescription medications that families rely on every day. So if you believe in being prepared and having access to the medications you may need, this is one of the smartest moves you can make. Let's go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Use that RSBN 10 promo code. And we can go over to Spring, Texas as well for angelpaste.com. Obviously a great sponsor here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. The Miracle Cream you see there on the right side of your screen. You can use the QR code, go to the website, whatever way to get to the products. And then of course, once you buy a couple of them, or maybe one, use that RSBN 10 promo code at checkout. All sorts of products there, whether it's the Miracle Cream or the various mists that are there. You can go to angelpaste.com, check it out. Great sponsor out of Spring, Texas. All right, let's do this. Let's go to a number of videos that we've seen all about the Save America Act when it comes to our elected officials out there. So we're going to go to that, and then at the end of that clip, once again, we'll play the Carolyn Levitt information when it comes to that press conference where she broke down exactly what's in the Save America Act.
It's been about 2 years since Chip Roy and I wrote the SAVE Act, which later became the Save America Act. Tomorrow, this is going to come to fruition as the Save America Act comes to the floor of the United States Senate. I invite all within the sound of my voice who would like this bill to become law to reach out to as many people as possible, friends, neighbors, especially United States senators who might listen to you. Ask them, please get this passed. Tell them We need to invoke the talking filibuster in the United States Senate. No zombie filibuster will suffice on this one. We've got to turn to this bill, we've got to debate it, and we've got to stay on the bill until it becomes law. There can be no surrender, there can be no ifs, ands, or buts, there can be no cheap imitations here. The Republic is on the line. Let's get this done.
The Save America Act is simple, reasonable, and widely supported. Cut off the Senate floor speaking about the Save America Act. You know, the crazy idea that you'd have to show a picture ID when you vote, just like when you get on an airplane, just like when you buy a gun, you got to prove who you are when you vote. Can you believe it? When you hear from Senate Democrats that they refuse to support the Save America Act, kind of scratch your head. Again, we use an ID for so many other things. By the way, here's the poster I use. I think you can read it like that. It's a lot easier to show your picture ID when you go to vote than it is to read that sign. I ask my Senate Democratic colleagues to remember this. You demand an ID to buy a gun, but you won't require it to cast a vote. My gosh, Democrats, vote for the Save America.
So this week, the Senate is going to do something called a show vote, meaning it is a vote that they know is not going to pass because they are so sick and tired of the American people raking them over the coals, and rightfully so, for not passing the Save America Act. They're hoping that you do not know what's happening, that you are not informed, and they are hoping that this vote will get you off their back, which is exactly why I'm informing you guys on what their little plan is. So call your senators and ask them, where do you stand on this standing filibuster? If they're not for it, that means that they're part of the problem and they need to go. So aside from that, if they don't do their job, which I'm not holding my breath because if I did, I'd probably pass out, we are going to attach the Save America Act to FISA. That's really the only way that we can get this done. This is something that many Republicans campaigned on in the midterms and a bare basic in trying to secure elections, which is why the Democrats are so much opposed to it. Anyways, we'll give you guys updates, but remember, they're sending over some legislation this week to get passed, and it's not going to get passed.
President Trump is urging Congress to pass the Save America Act, one of the most critical pieces of legislation in our nation's history. The Save America Act is overwhelmingly popular with all Americans because each provision is rooted in common sense. The Save America Act has 5 simple requirements as requested by the President of the United States. Number 1, voters have to show ID to cast a ballot in an American election. Very simple. 90% of Americans, including more than 80% of Democrat voters, agree with this. Number 2, the Save America Act will require all voters to show proof of citizenship in order to register to vote in American elections. Again, this is popular and rooted in common sense. Only American citizens have the right to vote in American elections. But after Joe Biden and the Democrats allowed tens of millions of illegal aliens into our country, it's more important than ever to ensure that only American citizens are registering to vote on our nation's voter rolls, and Congress needs to pass this. Number 3, the Save America Act abolishes the incredibly unsecure practice of universal mail-in ballots, which throw the door wide open for fraud. Importantly, the Save America Act maintains exceptions for Americans to use mail-in ballots for illness, disability, military, or travel reasons. The bipartisan 2005 report of the Commission on Federal Election Reform, shared by, of all people, former President Jimmy Carter and former Secretary of State James Baker, concluded that, quote, absentee ballots remain the largest source of potential voter fraud, and it is time for Congress to finally address this. Number 4, the Save America Act permanently bans men from competing in women's sports. President Trump signed a landmark executive order upholding the promise of Title IX and ending this dangerous and unfair practice. But now it's time for Congress to codify this into law. Number 5, the Save America Act bans transgender mutilation surgery for children. Again, President Trump signed a common sense executive order to do this and kept his promise to the American people, but now Congress needs to do the same and codify it. It's well past time for Democrats in Congress to stop perpetuating the radical and false claim that you can somehow change a child's sex. You cannot. Passing the Save America Act is the most important thing that Republicans and, frankly, Democrats can do to strengthen election integrity and protect our democracy. It's what the American people elected Republicans to do, and they must deliver on it as soon as possible. The president is calling on Congress to get the job done and send this historic piece of legislation to his desk immediately for signature.
All right, so standing by there, of course, we saw Carolyn Levitt recently for that press conference. Now we're going to be seeing the President of the United States here in just a little bit. We're also going to see the leader of Ireland, the Taoiseach of Ireland, Michael Martin. And then as soon as that wraps up at about 12:10 Eastern, that might be pushed back a little bit, but the President participates in the Friends of Ireland luncheon. That'll be inside the U.S. Capitol building. And then tonight at 5:20, the President will participate in the Shamrock Bowl presentation. That'll be at the East Room of the White House. You can catch our coverage with Robert McNeely at 5 o'clock Eastern Time a bit later today. Also, we're tracking a lot of stories, as you guys know, from the Save America Act to developing news, breaking news. If you've missed any of our coverage so far, we started at 10 this morning, covered a lot of the news headlines that are out there, but also, a lot of analysis as well from various people, including Senator Tommy Tuberville of Alabama, Seth Keshel, also his wife, who is the Arizona State Representative Rachel Keshel, joined us live. And coming up in about 20 minutes from now, depending on if we're live in D.C., we'll record the interview, if not, and air it soon. But Jared Hudson, the Navy SEAL, the former Navy SEAL running for U.S. Senate in Alabama, will join us live at the top of the hour. But, of course, awaiting the President of the United States as well for this bilateral meeting. In the meantime, all of it brought to you by some great sponsors, as you guys know, here at Right Side, including Birch Gold Group. Birch Gold Group. You can think about in 2006, again, that $20,000 equaled roughly 33 ounces of gold at spot price. So $20,000, 33 ounces of gold at spot price. But at today's prices, those 33 ounces would be worth about $165,000. Smart Americans are diversifying a portion of their savings into precious metals, and that's why you might want to consider buying gold from our friends at Birch Gold Group, because for thousands of years, gold has been a store of wealth, and today it's a crucial part of any balanced financial strategy. Even better, Birch Gold can help you convert an existing IRA or a 401k into tax-sheltered retirement accounts in gold. All you have to do to get the ball rolling, text Trump to the number 989898 to receive your free info kit on gold. There's no obligation, just useful information. With that A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, let Birch Gold help you diversify with gold, and you can get that peace of mind as well. So just text Trump to 989898. Again, it's Trump to 989898. Also, let's go to covepure.com/RSBN as well, as you see there on your screen. First of all, getting $250 off, that's a good way to start by getting a product like this where, most people tend to go overboard buying the new supplements, trying a new diet or workout, which is all great, but then completely forgetting and ignoring the most important basic thing, our water intake, because even mild dehydration impacts energy, focus, and metabolism. And when you think about all of the garbage that's in our water, you're starting behind the curve before you even begin. Cove Pure changes this whole thing immediately, and they have that clear wave technology certified to remove up to 99.9% of contaminants. Pretty much anything that isn't water, so the PFAs, microplastics, pharmaceutical residue, fluoride, that all gets removed, and then you have the purest water that you can get, and guess what? No aftertaste. Always good to have that when it comes to drinking water. You don't want to have a terrible aftertaste, especially when it comes to tap water. So this is a machine that you can have whether it's cold, warm, or hot with a touch of a button as well. So to get the whole ball rolling, just go to covepure.com/RSBN. And again, right now you can get that $250 off for that limited time when you use that link, covepure.com/RSBN. 11:43. Looking live there. You're seeing that the feed has started. So as soon as we see the President of the United States, we will take you there. So let's go over specifically for those just joining us right now. Of course, happy St. Patrick's Day to the nearly 40 million Americans who are of Irish ancestry, according to the latest 2020 U.S. Census. And to anybody else, if you don't have any Irish, hey, it's all right. A lot of people celebrate St. Patrick's Day. My grandma had a bit of Irish in her, so I have a little bit of Irish, Cuban as well. That's the last name Alvarez for my grandpa. Italian over here, so Italian, Cuban, Irish. But you know what? Thank God I am born and was born in America. here in the United States of America. So here's what's on tap for today, no pun intended. Any minute now, the president will meet with the Taoiseach of Ireland, Michael Martin. And at about 12:10 Eastern, the president will participate in the Friends of Ireland luncheon inside the U.S. Capitol building. So again, we're going to see that bilateral meeting inside the Oval Office. As soon as we see that live feed on the right side of your screen, we'll toss it to D.C. And then after that, sometime later, I believe that the 12:10 may be pushed back because it's already 11:44 Eastern time. The president's going to be meeting with the Irish leader there, and then, of course, take questions. That could last, 20, 30, 40 minutes. We don't know. After that, then the president would have to get into a motorcade to get over to the U.S. Capitol building. So I can guarantee that the 12:10 Eastern time on the White House schedule is going to be pushed back to, 1:10 maybe. The president, again, will participate in that Friends of Ireland luncheon inside the U.S. Capitol building scheduled right now for 12:10. But again, we're 15 minutes to the top of the hour. So then tonight at 5:20, the president will participate in the Shamrock Bowl presentation. That'll be at the East Room of the White House. You can catch our live coverage at 5 o'clock Eastern. All right. As we are awaiting the live feed there, you see the White House, of course, blue skies, a little less snow, looking a little warmer. That's always good, even though down here in the south, woke up, it was 30-something degrees down here, but that's nothing in comparison to those of you in Iowa and other parts of the country. I saw the video, trust me. I saw the blizzard videos, the snow, the high winds. Brr, I hear you. And I know because I used to cover some of the blizzards when I worked in the Northeast. I was one of those reporters out there freezing my you-know-what off. But anyway, and I'm not opposed to going back out there in the field sometimes to cover some things. I mean, hey, why not? You got to cover the stories. And speaking of that, shout out to citizen journalist Nick Shirley for kicking some serious ass out there. I mean, think about it. In Minnesota, he uncovers all of that fraud. Then he's now out in California, and it looks like there's the numbers of the amount of fraud that's happening in just California alone, which we've been hearing about that here on the broadcast. The vice president talking about it the other day too with California. Well, Nick Shirley has the receipts. So outside of Nick Shirley, all of the conservative citizen journalists, out of the people that just love revealing truth or investigative style of journalists, conservative media, people that are based, I know that was a term that was used for a while there, but the people that are on the right side of history, right? God, family, country, freedom, common sense, truth, justice, and the American way. All of us, shout out to everybody, but also we the people, we, everyday America, doesn't mean that, oh, you're just an average citizen in America and you just have to follow what everybody else is doing. That's what sheep will do. You're not a sheep. You're not a lamb. You're a lion out there, of course, and that's something that's bold and something that's strong and that loves God, family, and country. So you guys are rock stars. We the people are rock stars out there, and what we the people want, and I can speak for a number of you that don't have maybe a platform or you're not on a TV station or stuff like that, is you want that Save America Act passed. Who doesn't want voter ID and proof of citizenship and no mail-in ballots other than for medical and military? You know what I mean? So we're with you. Let's win this thing. Let's get this midterm a victory through the Save America Act. There's a lot of other news going on as well that we've talked about. So we're just, juggling it all here at Right Side and in conservative media. So we're going to go to the White House any minute from now, specifically the Taoiseach of Ireland. So that's like the prime minister name. They call it a Taoiseach, is the minister there. That is Michael Martin, who you're about to see on the right side of your screen, most likely in front of that fireplace in the Oval Office. There it is. Let's go.
Well, thank you very much. It's a great honor to have Taoiseach Martin from Ireland, and somebody that we know, we get along with. We've had a very good relationship, and we continue, and we're going to have some big discussions today concerning trade, concerning lots of different subjects. We have a tremendous trade relationship with Ireland, and we'll keep it that way. I think it's going to be expanded very greatly. Probably they want to talk a little bit about tariffs, but I won't mention that. We won't bring that up. But you might want to be discussing that a little bit. But it's an honor to have you, and thank you very much for being here. Thank you.
And may I thank you, President, for facilitating this visit, and in what is for us probably one of the most important weeks in the United States. And in many ways, you're affirming the tremendous bonds between Ireland and the United States that go back to the very foundation of this republic. And 35 million people in this country claim Irish descent and Irish heritage. And I spent the first 2 days in Philadelphia, going back really into the heart of that history, and the fact that 3 Irish people born on the island of Ireland signed the Declaration of Independence. It was printed by an Irishman, John Dunlap, and disseminated across the colonies. And Charles Thompson, who we discussed earlier, he designed the bald eagle, the seal of the US. So in many ways, our connection is foundational, it's historic. And the Irish helped to build America. We're very proud of that connection. And we think you hosting us here in the White House is affirmation to all the Irish Americans out there and to our diaspora in this country for what they've contributed to America. And that's very much through the prism this year, the America 250. It's a very exciting year, and we're discovering new things. I mean, even a guy from my own city, a guy called Stephen Moylan, who was an aide-de-camp to Washington, he's regarded as the guy who came up with the phrase "the United States of America," first written record, and it's in New York in the museum and so on like that. So that's the nature, the history of those bonds.
Well, you told me something before that was maybe the most interesting of all. How many presidents are in some way related through blood with Ireland?
23.
Can you
23 Irish presidents.
They're great politicians. The Irish are great politicians.
Absolutely.
No, but think of it. 23 are in some form, and many of them have gone to Ireland.
Absolutely.
Grant
went to Ireland after his presidency. I was saying earlier, Ronald Reagan's visit was an extraordinary one in a place called Ballyporeen in County Tipperary. And of course, John F. Kennedy, whose grandfather was Irish, came back, I think, early '63. That's a very memorable visit because of the tragedy that happened subsequently in the assassination, which touched people in Ireland very deeply. So the Kennedy family is strong. Resonation with Ireland.
Well, we like the family too.
Yeah.
One person in particular, one very non-controversial.
I know
person.
that.
But now he's doing a very good job. He really is. But we have more, I think, people here by far than you have in Ireland that are of Irish descent. We have, so you have quite a few, but we have a lot.
You have a lot more than we have.
It's pretty amazing by a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Anyway, thank you very much. It's a great honor. And any questions for me?
What is it Ireland in September, and will you stay at Dubai?
Well, I'm having, it's a great thing, my son and my family, we have a great golf complex in Ireland, one of the best in the world, called Doonbeg. It's in Doonbeg. And it's been amazing, and Rory McIlroy loves it. They all love it. Great golfers. You have a tremendous golf tradition, and it was chosen for the Irish Open, which is a big deal. That's a big event.
Absolutely, looking forward to it.
Everybody wants me to be there. You just said, I hope you're going to go.
I did.
And we're going to try. We are going to try, but it will be an honor. But it was a great honor to be chosen. They only choose the best courses in the world for the, for the big opens. It's one of the big ones, the Irish Open. It's really become one of the most important tournaments in the world. I hear it's going to be a fantastic success.
It'll be a great success.
Yeah. It's a
Mr.
very,
President,
it's a very hard course.
Mr.
What progress
President,
have you made, Mr. President, in getting America's allies to assist the U.S. in escorting those oil tankers through the Strait of Hormuz?
Well, we don't need too much help, and we don't need any help, actually. In fact, we just put out a notice. I was watching over the last couple of weeks, and all of our NATO allies were very much in favor of what we did. They thought it was very important. We were just discussing it, actually. Very important that we take out the nuclear threat from Iran, and we've done that very strongly, very powerfully. We've wiped out their navy, wiped out their military in every aspect. Their Air Force is now decimated. They have no Air Force, no Navy. They have no radar. Their radar is entirely gone. Their anti-aircraft machinery is gone. Everything is gone. Their leaders are gone. I guess one of their top person was, they say, a lot of people say their actual top was killed yesterday, along with somebody else who was responsible for the killing. The man that was responsible for the killing of 32,000 people over the last 2 weeks, he was in charge of the killing of protesters. It's an evil group. I mean, they've killed much more than 32,000 people. And the man who was responsible for that was also killed yesterday. And all of the NATO allies agreed with us, but they don't want to, despite the fact that we help them so much. We have thousands of soldiers in different countries all over the world, and they don't want to help us, which is amazing. I mean, amazing. And I didn't do a full court press because I think if I did, they probably would be. But we don't need help. That war has been long prosecuted, as far as I'm concerned, almost from day one. We knocked out many of these things. We knocked out the Navy essentially in a couple of days. But I was surprised to see that NATO, while they agree that it was a very important thing to do, they agree fully. Nobody said, oh, you shouldn't do it. They would have had a nuclear weapon within 1 month of when we had the B-2 bombers bomb the nuclear potential. I call it the nuclear dust. So I think NATO's making a very foolish mistake. And I've long said that, I wonder whether or not NATO would ever be there for us. So this was a great test, because we don't need them, but they should have been there. The other thing is, and I think, very important, we didn't have to be there for Ukraine. Biden chose to spend hundreds of billions of dollars on Ukraine. And I guess the head of Germany just made a statement that, they weren't involved and they have nothing to do with the war. But at the same time, they think we did a great thing by knocking them out. Nobody wants to have Iran, or anybody, but nobody wants to have Iran with a nuclear, because these people are crazy. They're absolutely crazy, and they're vicious, violent. I mean, they killed, think of it. They killed, now I hear it's about 41,000 people. They put out a notice 2 days ago. Anybody that protests will be immediately shot and killed. That's pretty tough stuff. So everyone agrees with us, but they don't want to help. And we as the United States have to remember that, because we think it's pretty shocking.
President Macron has just said in the last hour that he will never join a task force in the Strait of Hormuz until hostilities finish. Yet yesterday you said...
Who said that?
President Macron of France. What's your reaction to that, sir?
Well, he'll be out of office very soon, so we'll have to see. I don't know.
President Trump, on Doonbeg, you're building an extension to it at the moment, but there's been an objection put in, and it's being held back at the moment due to small snails. What are you disappointed about that?
Planning Commission is
I have not heard that. No.
Planning Commission.
I mean, the course was built and it's been operated very successfully. Somebody's objecting. An environmental group is objecting to small snails at Doonbeg. I don't know. It doesn't sound like the biggest problem I've ever had.
How close the EU is to announce a coalition of willing to secure the Strait of Hormuz? Which countries are joining and which countries have...
Well, we've had great support from the Middle East. Qatar has been great. UAE has been they've been great. Saudi Arabia has been terrific. Bahrain has been very good. The Middle Eastern countries have been very strong in their support. And of course, Israel has been our partner. Israel's been very, very strong along with us. It's been a very strong collaboration. I was against Iran long before I even thought about Israel being against Iran. If you look back, many years ago, I talked about Iran was a big threat to this country, to this world of ours, and turned out to be I was right. In fact, I said you have to attack Karg Island. You have to attack them years ago when they were acting up. They've been acting up for 37, 47, I guess now 48 years. For 48 years, they've been bad players, vicious players, and you can't let them have a nuclear weapon. If they got a nuclear weapon, I would say they would have used it within 24 hours after having it. And they would have had it if we didn't bomb them out on that great raid with the B-2 bombers 8 months ago or so. You would have had a nuclear war in the Middle East and maybe beyond. I think it would have hit Europe. Maybe not Ireland, but it would have hit Europe. I think you would have been a nice piece of it. It all gets you. It's big enough that you would have been affected. They would have hit Europe eventually.
Mr. President, your Director of National Counterterrorism, Joe Kent, he just resigned today. He said he can't support your conflict with Iran. What's your reaction to that? And did you talk
Well, I read his statement. I always thought he was a nice guy, but I always thought he was weak on security, very weak on security. I didn't know him well, but I thought he seemed like a pretty nice guy. But when I read his statement, I realized that it's a good thing that he's out, because he said that Iran was not a threat. Iran was a threat. Every country realized what a threat Iran was. The question is whether or not they wanted to do something about it. And many people, many of the greatest military scholars are saying for years that presidents should have taken out Iran because they wanted a nuclear weapon. They were, if we didn't do the attack, or if, I'll go a step further, if I didn't terminate the Iran nuclear deal given to us, one of the worst deals ever made by Barack Hussein Obama. Remember when they sent Boeing 757s over there, loaded with cash, hundreds of millions of dollars? You would have been very happy. This was a wonderful, they sent hundreds of millions. People forget that. Does anybody remember? Right? You remember. Hundreds of millions of dollars in a Boeing 757. I think they had two of them loaded. They took the seats out and they put cash. And it was so much that there wasn't a bank in Virginia, Maryland, or D.C. that had any money left. They stripped them of all their money, put it into place, sent it to Iran, almost as ransom. That's not going to happen with Trump. And nobody ever did anything about it. Nobody ever said anything about it. Can you imagine if I did that? So they've been a threat for a long time. But they've really been a threat. If I didn't terminate Obama's horrible deal that he made, the Iran nuclear deal, you would have had a nuclear war 4 years ago. You would have had nuclear holocaust, and you would have had it again if we didn't bomb the site. So when somebody is working with us that says they didn't think Iran was a threat, we don't want those people, because, and there are some people, I guess, that would say that, but they're not smart people or they're not savvy people. Iran was a tremendous threat. And virtually every NATO nation, and this is the thing, if they told me it wasn't a threat, and therefore they don't want to help, but when they say it was a threat, and it was a major threat, every one of them, I think every one of them, I don't know of one that said they're not a threat, but when they say it was a threat, but we're not going to help, I think they're very foolish. You know, it's interesting. It's interesting because I could say this, that what's happening in Ukraine, we're probably in there for $400 billion. We don't spend any money anymore. They buy it from us and they pay full price. But Biden gave them between $350 and $400 billion of equipment and cash. Someday they'll have to find out about the cash. And you could say that wasn't a threat, you know, we're helping them. So we helped them, and they didn't help us, and I think that's a very bad thing for NATO.
Are there any repercussions for NATO, and are you still going to China?
Well, yeah, on China, it's a little different story. We're resetting the meeting, and it looks like it'll take place in about 5 weeks. We're working with China. They were fine with it. We're going to say, I look forward to seeing President Xi. He looks forward to seeing me, I think. But I do look forward to seeing him. We have a good relationship with China. China actually has become economically for us very good, as you know. It's much different than it was in the past. And we have a very good working relationship with China. So we're making it in about 5 or 6 weeks.
Any repercussions for NATO for not supporting you on this? Any repercussions?
Well, no, I just think that it's not good for a partnership when they say what you're doing is a great thing, but we're not going to help. You know, they say what you did is a great thing, but we're not going to help.
Mr. President, in Iran, because the Iranian regime has told Sky News, if you put boots on the ground in Iran, it will be another Vietnam. Are you afraid of that?
No, I'm not afraid of. I'm really not afraid of anything.
Are you rethinking the United States' relationship with NATO possibly getting out?
Well, I'm disappointed in NATO that we spend trillions of dollars on NATO. Think of it, trillions over the years, many trillions of dollars. It's one of the reasons we have deficits and we help other countries. And when they don't help us, I mean, it's certainly something that we should think about. I don't need Congress for that decision. As you probably know, I can make that decision myself. I'd work with some very smart people. And I'd always deal with Congress anyway, but I don't need Congress for that decision. But, you know, when you say rethink, I have nothing currently in mind, but I will say that I'm not exactly thrilled when we help them with Ukraine. Look, Ukraine would have been over in one day if we didn't help. Frankly, Ukraine would have been over in the first day. They had the best equipment in the world. It was our equipment, given by Sleepy Joe Biden. No charge, no charge. Hundreds of billions of dollars of the best equipment in the world, no charge. I will say that I'm not happy about it.
Mr. President, two questions, one on Iran and one on Cuba. Is Iran now a bigger foreign policy priority for you than China? And on Cuba, the Cuban government.
Iran is just a military operation to me. Iran is something that was essentially largely over in 2 or 3 days because the Navy was wiped out almost immediately. The Air Force came next. The anti-aircraft came next. I mean, we're flying over Iran. We could take out their electric capacity in 1 hour. We have there's nothing they can do right now because everything is knocked out. They have no radar, no anti-aircraft. They have nothing. And we don't, and it was a decision I made. We discussed it. Pete, Marco, JD, all of us, Chris, we discussed it. We can knock out their electricity in a matter of minutes if we wanted to. There's nothing they can do about it. We can knock out their oil in Carg Island. The only thing we didn't take down was their oil because if we knock out, I call them the pipes, very complex. But if you do that, it'll take them forever to rebuild, meaning whoever, and hopefully it's a sane group of people, but whoever it is that's going to be running that, and we're going to try to get people that are going to run it well, and it's going to be a prosperous, wonderful place. It used to be, if you go back, it used to be the people are great, the people are smart and energetic, and it used to be very successful. Now it's a country run by fear. It's a country where they tell protesters, don't go outside because if you do, we're going to kill you. Yeah, Cuba. Well, Cuba right now is in very bad shape. They're talking to Marco, and we'll be doing something with Cuba very soon. We're really focused on this, but we're dealing with Cuba. Marco, do you want to say a couple of words about it?
Yeah, I mean, Cuba has an economy that doesn't work and a political and governmental system that can't fix it. So they have to change dramatically. What they announced yesterday is not dramatic enough. It's not going to fix it. So they've got some big decisions to make over there.
But Secretary Rubio, do you support, and I know this is up to Congress, but do you support easing the trade embargo if you get more cooperation from Havana?
Well, I'm not going to discuss what we would talk about or not. Suffice it to say that the embargo is tied to political change on the island. The embargo is codified. And but the bottom line is their economy doesn't work. It's a non-functional economy. It's an economy that has survived. That revolution, it's not even a revolution, that thing they have has survived on subsidies from the Soviet Union and now from Venezuela. They don't get subsidies anymore, so they're in a lot of trouble. And the people in charge, they don't know how to fix it. So they have to get new people in charge. That's what.
And the relationship we have with Venezuela has been, I think you could almost say, incredible. It's been really good. It's been good for Venezuela, and it's been good for us. And I congratulate the Venezuelan baseball team because that was a big win. And I guess they play another game tonight in the finals. And I said, a lot of good things have happened to Venezuela lately. This is the first time they've ever been in the finals, and it was pretty exciting. Yeah.
Iran is just a military operation to you, but do you not have a day after plan? And if so, what is your day after plan for Iran?
Well, we have a lot. Look, if we left right now, it would take 10 years for them to rebuild. But we're not ready to leave yet. But we'll be leaving in the near future. We'll be leaving in pretty much the very near future. But right now, they've been decimated from every standpoint. And again, we've had great support from countries in the Middle East, great support. But we've had no support from, essentially, no support from NATO.
What about your relationship with London? Has it been damaged by the fact that Keir Starmer isn't supporting you in this war? And has your opinion of Keir Starmer changed because of this?
Well, he hasn't been supportive, and I think it's a big mistake. You know, they make a lot of money on trade with the United States. I went out of my way, as you know, they couldn't make a deal with Biden because they had no real administration to make a deal, Biden. But we made a deal. We made a good deal for them, and frankly, probably wasn't appreciated. I do look forward to seeing the King. He's going to be coming, as you know, very shortly. But no, I was disappointed because Keir was willing to send 2 aircraft carriers after we won, because essentially there's no threat for the aircraft carriers right now. And I said, no, we want things sent before the war, not after the war is won. So, yeah, I'm disappointed with Keir. I like him. I think he's a nice man, but I'm disappointed. You see that man right there? You know who that is?
Churchill.
That's the late, great Winston Churchill. And Barack Hussein Obama did not want his bust in this office. Did you know that? And Barack Hussein Obama sent that bust back to England. They didn't want it. And when I came in, I was asked if I wanted it. I said, absolutely, I want it. And I put it right there, Winston Churchill. And, you know, unfortunately, Keir is not Winston Churchill.
Do you have
No, hold it.
Right. Just could I
hold it?
Just make a number of points. First of all, I think, notwithstanding what has happened, the transatlantic relationship between Europe and the US is very, very important on a number of fronts. And I think we've had issues over the last year or two, but we settled them. And I think many of these leaders engaged with you, particularly on trade initially. Remember all the fuss last year, but we got a landing zone between Europe and the US, and I think we can get a landing zone again. And I think I just met with Keir Starmer last week. The British-Irish relationship is a very important one. Churchill was a great wartime leader, although in Ireland there was kind of a different perspective in terms of during our own War of Independence and so on. He created his own bit of difficulties for us. But that said, he was a great wartime hero. Keir Starmer has done a lot to reset the Irish-British relationship. I just want to put that on the record. But I do believe that he's a very earnest, sound person who I think you have a capacity to get on with. You've got on with him before. And you've got on with other European leaders as well. Sure. And I think you have that capacity again. And I think everyone exists. I mean, you cannot have a rogue state with a nuclear weapon or the capacity for a nuclear weapon. Iran was a sponsor of terrorism. We sanctioned Iran. All European countries did, as a and the IRGC in particular as a terrorist organization. They sponsored Hamas. They sponsored Hezbollah, the Houthis. They created mayhem, a most maligned force in the Middle East. The Irish position has always been, ultimately, can we resolve this? Can we get peace? And obviously there's preconditions before you get to that situation. We had our own conflict, which went on for 30 years, and we learned a lot from that in terms of how to try and bring about peace. And I think I listened to you in terms of, you're correct. I mean, our hearts go to the Iranian people who have been repressed and suppressed for so many years, culminating in that savage murder of thousands and thousands of Iranians some months ago. No one was in a position to do anything about that. I think, and likewise with Ukraine, I mean, the Russians did invade Ukraine, have attacked civilian infrastructure and so on like that. And for the people of Ukraine who just want peace and an opportunity to live, I think there is I think we have to continue to work to see can we bring peace, different regime to Iran where Iranians can live in peace again, and the people in the Middle East can live in peace. And you're doing your bit there in terms of the work in Gaza and so on like that. And I think that's what we want, is a peaceful resolution of conflict. That's where we come from as a small nation.
Right.
We've been peacekeepers all our lives. And we're the longest serving nation in terms of provision of peacekeeping forces in the world, as it turns out. But we think ultimately all conflicts come to an end, and I think we have to try and work towards that end. And I'm sure European leaders and the US administration will engage, and hopefully we can get a landing zone somewhere.
I mean, the only thing, and I agree with everything he said, but we helped with Ukraine.
Yes. Yeah.
And they don't help with Iran. And they all acknowledge that Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. You yourself say, these are horrendous people. These are the worst people, and going back to Hitler, right? Going back to Hitler, these are the worst people. That's a long time ago. And there's been nothing close. Every problem, so many deaths, 90% of the people that got blown up by landmines, they loved them. Soleimani, we killed him. If we didn't, it might be a different story, because he was a horrible person, but he was a very powerful person and leader, smart. But we killed him. If we didn't, I think you'd have it. I did. But I think it would have maybe a different situation. It wouldn't have been so easy as it has been, because it has been very easy. It's all of their military is out, but you could always have somebody drop a mine in the water. It's like terrorism.
Yep.
And then you have the people that own the billion-dollar ship saying, well, let's not move that ship yet because we want. So we thought that Europe would help that, because they do have some minesweepers. But it's amazing that, they all said, what a great job. They would call me congratulating us on the great job we did with respect to Iran, and we knocked the hell out of them. They're no longer the bully of the Middle East. They were known as the bully of the Middle East, and they're not the bully anymore. But you would have thought they would have said, we'd love to send a couple of minesweepers. It's not a big deal. It doesn't cost very much money. But they didn't do that. So, I think it's very unfair to the United States. Not to me, but to the United States. Go ahead, please.
Keir Starmer isn't making...
She's a fantastic reporter, by the way. Go ahead.
Thank you. The Prime Minister isn't making the case to the British public as to why he should be supporting you. Could you do that now and talk to the UK and to GB News viewers about why it's in their interest that we help you?
Well, because we have a tremendous long-term relationship with the UK. I mean, people would say it's the best. I don't want to get into that, but we've had, it was the longest, the oldest, should be the best. Always was the best until Keir came along, and I like him. He's a nice man. He says everything beautiful. He's a very nice man with a beautiful family. Everything's perfect, but he doesn't produce. And I think it's very inexpensive. I just said, you don't have to send me aircraft carriers. Send me a couple of minesweepers. We don't need your aircraft carriers. But even the aircraft carriers, he would only send them after we essentially won. I mean, he's sending them when there are no planes left. When the missiles are down to 8%, they have like 8% of the missiles. The rest we demolish the missiles, and the factories, largely the factories are going even as we speak. They just hit another factory. They have a lot of missile factories. They have a lot of drone factories, and so he's wants to send them when we don't need them. But we'd like to have minesweepers, because just in case. We don't know that there are any mines now, because we wiped out, I think, 24. They actually have to think of this for a country. They have 24 boats that do nothing but put mines in the water. This doesn't sound like a great country. This doesn't sound like a friendly country. But we killed all of those boats. They're at the bottom of the sea. So we don't even know if there are any mines there. But if there are, we'd like to have a little help in finding them. Probably most importantly.
Would you like to change the Prime Minister? Do you have confidence in Keir Starmer? Would you prefer to deal with?
Well, it's not for me. It's really for the people of the UK to have confidence.
Of course, but is he
I've been very critical of Keir, and I did it in a friendly way. I said, if you don't change your energy thing and get away from windmills and go back to oil and gas, and you have something that's no other country has. Very few countries have anything like it, the North Sea. You have some of the greatest oil and oil deposits in the entire world, the North Sea. They don't use it. You buy a lot of your oil from Norway. You know where they get their oil? From the North Sea. And you pay a very big price. So why are you paying a lot of money? And I tell them, and you have the better part of the North Sea. So why aren't they taking the oil from the North Sea? Why are they buying oil from Norway? But they have windmills all over the country destroying those gorgeous Scottish fields and those beautiful fields all over the windmills, which don't work. They're tremendously expensive. And the best testament to that is the windmills are made in China, but China doesn't use them. You know what China uses? Coal. They're building 58 coal-fired plants right now, and that's up to them. But these foolish countries that are buying windmills are putting them out of business. I'm proudly telling you that we're going to try and have no windmills built in the United States during my... Because they're very bad. They're very bad environmentally. They kill the birds. They're unsightly. They make a lot of noise. And for some reason, the environmentalists love windmills, okay?
You say he's a very nice man.
I think he's a nice man. I think he's a nice man, but I disagree with him on two things, primarily. His immigration policy is a disaster, and his energy policy is a disaster. And they're about the biggest policies you can have. You've allowed millions and millions and millions of people to come into your country that shouldn't be there. And by the way, that's all over Europe. Europe is a different place. It's a different place. And you know, I originate, to put it nicely, many of us do, from Europe. I love Europe. I've spent a lot of time in Europe. It's a different place. Bad things have happened to Europe. Very bad things. And you better do something about immigration, and you better do something about energy, or you won't have a Europe.
What's your time frame, Mr. President, for when cargo ships can safely go through the Strait of Hormuz?
It won't be, I don't believe, too long. We're knocking the hell out of the coast. It's basically the coast and the water, and it won't be too long. And the Middle Eastern states, including Israel, by the way, who has been terrific, the Middle Eastern states have been helping us a lot. Go ahead, you, please.
Mr. President, on fuel prices, what do you have to say to the people in Ireland who are paying sky-high prices because of your war in Iran?
Well, I think the people in Ireland are very happy that I'm getting rid of, I have a lot of friends from Ireland, they're very happy that I'm getting rid of a nuclear power, a nuclear terrorist. And as soon as that war's over, which will be soon, your prices are going to drop like a rock. You watch. I've been very good at predicting. No, in the back.
Yes. What do you think about our president's comments that your actions in Iran are breaking international law?
Say it.
What do you think about our president's comments?
Can you speak? You're speaking right into your phone.
Mr. President, how do you respond to the increased attacks by the Iraqi militia groups against the U.S. Embassy and consulate in Kurdistan region?
You want to answer that, JD? Do you want to?
Yeah, well, Marco, obviously the Secretary of State, has control over the embassy. Look, there have been a lot of militia attacks against our base, or our embassy in Iran. I think Marco's done a good job of limiting the number of people who are at that embassy so we can provide essential functions but also protect our people. But it goes to show there are a lot of terrorists in that region of the world, and we've got to eliminate them when we find them.
And you can't give them nuclear weapons. You can give them rifles, you can give them guns, you can't give them nuclear weapons. I think we agree very strongly on that. Yes, excuse me.
Just first of all, I would say, like, Europe is still a very good place to live in.
Good.
Just to let you know.
I'm glad to hear that.
And our view is you have to have robust and fair rules around migration. But on the other hand, a lot of people, within the European Union, we have free mobility of people. And in Ireland, our population is growing, but in a very positive way. Our economy is going well because we're attracting a lot of people from Europe and beyond into work, legally and validly in our country. In fact, I'd love if we could develop a legal pathway between the US and Ireland into the future because of our history and so on like that, that we could have a legal pathway, because no one is in favour of illegal migration or and so forth. So you have to have robust rules for that. But fundamentally, I think sometimes Europe gets characterized wrongly in terms of it being overrun or whatever like that. It's much more robust now. There's much more stronger mechanism in place to facilitate legal migration. I think it's important that understanding is there. We need more economic growth in Europe. It doesn't have the same focus on innovation as you do here in the US. We discussed that earlier with the Vice President in terms of technology, in terms of AI. We need to pivot more to innovation as opposed to regulation. I think investing in people, and that's the key to, I think, our collective future. We do learn lessons of here doing things and picking it up.
Prime Minister, Mr. President,
the Irish President has said that your war against Iran is illegal. It's an attack on international law.
Who said that?
The Irish President.
Look, he's lucky I exist. That's all I can say. Because if you're going to allow countries that are sick and demented, and they are demented, to have nuclear weapons, everybody in the whole world should be very thankful. And I'm disappointed in NATO, very disappointed. I'm disappointed in a couple of other countries too. But they should be very thankful that this group of people feels the way we do. Because if a country like Iran was allowed to have the power of a nuclear weapon, if we didn't stop them. I stopped them twice. I stopped them my first term when I terminated the Iran nuclear deal, which was Barack Obama's deal. It was one of maybe the worst deal I've ever seen. It gave everything to Iran, including billions of dollars in green cash. I don't mean cash, I mean green cash flown over by airplanes. I can't to this day believe that was allowed to happen. And come to think of it, it would be a good thing for somebody to look at. Does the president have the power to hand hundreds of millions of dollars of cash to terrorists? But it began with that, and I terminated that deal. If I didn't terminate that deal, we might not be here right now. If I didn't terminate that deal, unbelievable nuclear holocaust would have taken place. And then I did it a second time when we hit them with the B-2 bombers, and we totally obliterated their potential nuclear weapon that they would have had in less than 1 month. They think 2 weeks, but in less than 1 month. And it would have been, I believe it would have been a much different world than it is right now. We have to go. We're going to a lunch, so maybe we'll take one more nice question.
Can I ask you how you're doing with your legal case against the BBC and their fake news documentary?
Well, the BBC was incredible. What they did is they had me speaking something I never said. And I've never seen anything quite like it. You know, CBS had that. We had the situation on 60 Minutes, and not the current owners, the past owners. The current owners, I think, are good, Ellison. But BBC took it a step further. They actually had, they put words in my mouth, and I said some pretty bad things. And I didn't say them. It was AI generated. And I said, I never said that. In fact, some of my people said, wow, that was pretty bad stuff you said. I said, what did I say? You know, I'm pretty good at this stuff. I mean, if you can go through years of these press conferences and you're a popular president of the United States that won in a landslide, that won all 7 swing states, that got record numbers of votes, I mean, so I guess I'm okay at this stuff. I said, I never said that. And then we found out it was AI generated. And they admit they made a mistake. BBC. But I watched them this morning for some crazy reason, and it was so inaccurate. Their reporting on the war was unbelievable. We have decimated that country. And if you watch BBC, it's almost like they're fighting us to a draw. They're not fighting us to a draw. It was very inaccurate news. It was fake news. So I'm very proud of the term fake news because it was my term. I came up with it, but it's no longer accurate. It really is. It's corrupt, fraudulent news. It really is. It's fraudulent. It's not just fake. It's beyond fake. It's really criminal what they do. But I watched BBC this morning, and I don't know much about BBC other than what took place, because people were calling me saying, that was a terrible thing you said. I said, what did I say? And I said, I never said that. And when we checked it, you agree? They agree. It was somehow generated, I guess, by AI or something. with me saying unbelievable. So we brought a lawsuit against them. They admit they're guilty, but we'll see how it comes out. Thank you. I like that question. I like that question. Thank you very much. We'll see you later. Thank you.
All right, you saw it there. The president meeting with the Taoiseach of Ireland, Michael Martin, and soon the president was referring to this. He'll participate in this Friends of Ireland luncheon inside the U.S. Capitol building. We will carry that live as well. Shifting gears now. In the meantime, let's go from Washington, D.C. to right here in Alabama. Joining us now, once again, is a former Navy SEAL, Jared Hudson, who's running for U.S. Senate in Alabama. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you again for your service, sir.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Definitely. Let's talk about the Save America Act. We're seeing that it's supposed to be debated on the Senate floor and then possibly voted tomorrow. So your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, number one, it's something that should have been passed yesterday. This shouldn't even be a discussion right now. You know, Frederick Douglass said our freedom's rooted in 3 boxes: the ballot box, the jury box, and the cartridge box. Take it from a guy who's been in a country where the cartridge box is the only answer. Your ability to vote is unbelievably important. It's what keeps this nation from devolving into communities killing each other and evil leaders from being able to take over. We are a democratic republic. We see it happening all over the world. The Iranian regime that we just knocked out, the Ayatollah regime, right? That is a great example of a government who runs roughshod over their people right now in the 21st century. Our vote keeps that from happening, and it's important that we secure our vote from illegal immigrants or from those who should not be voting in our elections. And the easiest way to do that, and I don't even know why we're arguing about it, the easiest way to do that is to show up with an ID. Right here in Alabama, we require that you show up with your ID. Every time I go and vote, I show my ID, I get my ballot, I cast my ballot, make my votes, and then I put it in the thing that reads it, right, the machine. There are a lot of other issues that we can talk about on elections, but an easy way to secure our elections nationally, all across this nation, is to make sure that every state does that same thing. Now, more recently, 2 individuals were arrested and charged in Alabama for election fraud or for voter fraud. Now, that's still going to happen. The ID is not going to totally fix the problem, but it's going to mitigate a lot of the issues that we're seeing so that places where we see unbelievable waste, fraud, and abuse happening, like in Minnesota, we saw that, you know, earlier on in the year or even before 2026, we saw that happening with all the Somali fraud with the SNAP benefits and stuff. You don't think these people are not doing voter fraud when they're not required to show up with an ID? Pass the Save America Act, because it's truly going to save America and it's going to secure our democratic republic for our kids and hopefully our grandkids one day.
On top of that, proof of citizenship for the people that are voting. So voter ID, proof of citizenship, no more mail-in ballots coming from wherever. It's more about medical, military leave, that kind of thing. And then to your point about Minnesota, Nick Shirley uncovering more fraud in California. We know that there is a lot of fraud there by a number of receipts that we're seeing, but now Nick Shirley out there again doing a great job. But let's talk about Alabama. Let's talk about you running for U.S. Senate. Tell us about the campaign trail, your primary coming up, and how things are looking for you.
Yeah, things are going great, especially for me to be some regular guy from North Jefferson, Alabama. God has blessed us tremendously. We're resonating with the people across the state of Alabama. And the main reason is because everybody's sick of these career politicians who jump ship. They go to serve themselves. They climb the ladder. They think the position is for them as opposed to the people that they're elected to represent. And that message resonates across the state of Alabama. The other message that resonates is, 1, I'm a Christian. 2, I'm a 7th-generation Alabama family man. And number 3, is a Navy SEAL sniper, law enforcement officer, and the CEO of a nonprofit that combats human trafficking. People in Alabama love the individual who stands in the gap for others, serves on behalf of others, is raising their family right here in the state of Alabama, not in Washington, or hasn't already raised their family and now they're looking to go to a podium. And we get what we see happening now with with a generation that now should be passing the mantle on, and my generation should be willing to take up that mantle to hopefully make the United States of America better for our kids. That resonates with people, not the older career politician that everybody's used to seeing.
Exactly. It's the dog and pony show. You know, I've covered a lot of political events in my 20 plus years of being a journalist. I've seen what it's like. And you almost look at your phone and you go, man, that's not even true what this guy or girl is saying about X, Y, and Z subject. So that's why we're looking for people to trust, people like you, sir. You're on the right side of history doing this for the country. Let's talk about when you made that initial decision to run for U.S. Senate. I mean, I'm seeing that your popularity grow online as well, and I'm seeing that you may be a U.S. Senator soon, which will be pretty awesome. What was the initial decision that you said, I have to do this, though?
Initially, when I was asked, and it was just people that said, hey, this is going to be an open seat, or would you consider it? It wasn't like anybody from somewhere was recruiting Jared or anything like that. They just said, hey, we think you would be good at this. My thought was, no, I enjoy what I do in law enforcement. I enjoy what I do in my business and nonprofit. And the more my wife and I prayed about it, and the more I saw what a U.S. Senator does, it's supposed to bring back for the state of Alabama. It's supposed to be an envoy to Washington for the people of Alabama. And as one of 100, you're supposed to be an envoy for the United States of America. Seeing how that position is a true force multiplier, and it's neutral in nature. It only takes on the face of the person that embodies it. What kind of man am I if this opportunity exists? And my wife said this. She's the one who said it to me. What kind of man are you if this opportunity exists and we don't at least try to save America for our kids and for our grandkids and make sure that our posterity has the same opportunities and hopefully even better ones that we had. So that was ultimately the decision that pushed me over the edge. And everything that I deal with, human trafficking, military, law enforcement, now look at all the national security issues. Obviously, we see criminal enterprise in our communities. The things I deal with, how the position of U.S. Senate can positively impact those, but not just those, infrastructure in Alabama, making sure that we are that we continue to be the arsenal of the United States of America, while the United States of America is the arsenal of democracy and freedom around the world. Bringing back to Alabama is a big thing that has continued me down this road to know that I'm doing the right thing.
And then Senator Tommy Tuberville was on our broadcast earlier in the week, and we replayed that interview, obviously running for governor in Alabama. Your thoughts about Huntsville and U.S. Space Command being there. And, you know, there's a number of things going on just in this state alone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I, you know, with my business, I had the opportunity of running the warfighter training for Space Command and a few units within Space Force out in Colorado Springs. And I remember when I go out there, even the people within Space Command that were out there were always like, hey, man, we need to move to Huntsville. I think we're moving to Huntsville, Alabama. We need to move to Huntsville. This is years ago. So it's been talked about for a while. And that actually happening in Alabama is huge, along with everything else that we're seeing going on at Redstone Arsenal and the economic engine that is Huntsville. It's an economic engine for the rest of the state. With a senator like Senator Britt sitting on appropriations, and with me being a combat veteran, a real combat veteran who shot people and been shot at for this nation, sitting on Armed Services Committee, if I'm lucky enough to be able to sit on that committee, bringing back for Alabama and showing that we are truly a national defense hub. We are a national security nexus in the state is going to help us continue to develop our infrastructure, whether it's 565, the airport in Huntsville, I-65, all the way down to the Port Mobile, Fort Rucker over in the Wiregrass, Birmingham Air Wing and Maxwell Air Force Base, everything in between. That economic generator that's Huntsville is going to be a driving force behind that. The last thing I'll leave you with is it brings private investment in the state of Alabama like Eli Lilly that's in Huntsville. And those things are unbelievably important if we're going to grow as a state and continue to support this nation.
Speaking of this nation, we're about 3 months and change from our 250th birthday here of the United States of America. So I'm going to ask you one of the easiest questions I think I've ever asked anyone on a setting like this. How important are the First and Second Amendments of our Constitution for our United States of America?
Well, there's a reason they're the first and second. The first, my freedom of religion and my freedom of speech, being able to worship and say the things that you want to say against your government not being able to put you in jail for saying, hey, why are you doing this, government? But then secondly, the Second Amendment protects the first, because we used to have a joke in the SEAL teams, don't confuse your mouth or your rank with my willingness to break your jaw. And the bottom line is we're able to say what we want to say because there are men and women who stand in the gap for us, and because we as Americans have the ability to defend ourselves against a tyrannical government, unlike what we saw with the Ayatollah regime in Iran and running roughshod over 75 million Persian people who want to live a normal life, want to live in freedom. They imprison Christians for believing what they believe over there. They want to live in freedom. We see in the United States of America, our rights are outlined in our Constitution. They're codified. But here's the other thing. It's not a permission slip. The First and Second Amendment is not a permission slip from God or from the government. It is a right given to you by God that is outlined. Government, you cannot overstep this. Our people have the right to believe what they want to believe. Our people have the right to protect themselves against you or any criminal enterprise or any foreign adversary who would take it from them. Unbelievably important, especially 250 years in, because that's what secures our freedoms.
The license plates, some of them in Alabama, one of them say God bless America at the bottom of the license plate. And we have seen God bless this country. I mean, look at what we have here, including all of our freedoms. And I was thinking about the world the other day. I was thinking about all the nations, and I was thinking about the Middle East and Europe and Asia and all the places. And I thought to myself, this is the country that is still standing, saying we are a country about freedom, right? The Constitution is still the law of the land. But if we don't pass the Save America Act, if Sharia law tries to creep its way in certain areas, there are Sharia law courts in London. For real? I mean, so your thoughts about that in closing, that this is not just another political cycle. This is not just, hey, vote for me because. This is life and death, and it's in some ways for our nation, figuratively speaking, no?
No, you're 100% right. So one is outlined in our Constitution. It's codified. The protections of the people, government, you can't step past this. And what sets us apart with our Judeo-Christian values is we believe in life and liberty. It's in the Constitution. It's in the Declaration of Independence. Life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. John Locke said life, liberty, and property. And your property is your pursuit of happiness. That's why Jefferson changed it, because not everybody owned property. Every man is given this right. Every man, woman, and child is given this right by God, and it's incumbent on us to protect it. Now, here's the thing with what you mentioned with Sharia law and a lot of this Islamic hardline ideology. They don't believe in the same thing that we outline in our Constitution. Some might practice it, but for the most part, everywhere else in the world, they look at the United States of America and say that is the beacon of freedom and hope. And that is why we have people knocking down our gates, knocking down our doors to get here in the United States of America. And it's incumbent on us to protect that and make sure who comes here assimilates to who we are as Americans, and they don't start trying to push what their ideological hardline is, because it does not coincide. It cannot exist with the U.S. Constitution. We believe in life and liberty. They believe in convert or die. We have to make sure that we hold that distinction and protect our kids from that. That's why I'm running for the U.S. Senate, because we need real fighters, real warriors who are willing to fight, kill, and even die for this country if we have to. That's who we need representing us in Washington, not a bunch of career politicians, a bunch of pencil neck Poindexters who haven't been a fist fight, much less a gunfight. We need folks who are going to stand on the United States Constitution and stand for the people they're elected to represent. That's why I'm saying send a warrior to Washington.
The Constitution is the law of the land. We don't want any other law being the law of the United States of America. Jared Hudson, thank you again for your service to our nation as a former Navy SEAL. Best of luck to you as the hopeful next U.S. Senator of Alabama. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for having me, brother.
Awesome stuff, 1242. I don't know if that doesn't fire you up, fires me up big time, because what he spoke there is exactly what really we the people resonate with. You know, someone that's on the right side of history, just like that. Speaking truth. Okay, so this is what we're going to do here, guys. We have the White House Oval Office meeting, of course, earlier with the Irish leader and then, of course, President Trump. And coming up, the president will soon participate in the Friends of Ireland luncheon. That's inside the U.S. Capitol building. We'll carry that live as soon as we see that live feed. In the meantime, there's a few sponsors, of course, and our great sponsors. If we didn't have them, we would not be able to provide you all the different live coverage and all the things that we have done for more than 10 years now. So you see All Family Pharmacy right there. You need to maybe look at a pharmacy that actually supports your medical freedom, one that works smarter, not harder. And you can forget about the doctor visits, long pharmacy lines, or dealing with the insurance approvals. That system can be slow, frustrating, and outdated. But One pharmacy is doing this in a better way. It's All Family Pharmacy. You simply go online, you choose the medications you need, you fill out a quick medical form, and a licensed doctor reviews your request. If appropriate, they then provide that prescription, and then your order ships directly to your door. So you can stock up on essentials like antibiotics, antivirals, ivermectin, mebendazole, NAD+, and more than 300 other prescription medications. If you believe in being prepared and having access to the medications you need, this is one of the best options right there for you. Actually, the best option, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Use that RSBN 10 promo code. That gets you that 10% off. All right, it's 12:44, Tuesday, March 17th. Let's also go to Angel Paste out of Spring, Texas. A shout out to those of you in the Lone Star State. You can get 10% off your order right at checkout with the RSBN 10 promo code. But what's in store online there is a number of the miracle creams that you see. There's the flagship product right there. There's a number of other products as well that you can check out. Some great patriots over there at Angel Paste, angelpaste.com, and they hire veterans. Awesome to see that too. Angelpaste.com, you can check out the QR code if you'd like. All right, here we go. It's happy St. Patrick's Day to you. As you see the Kalshi logo there in the top right of your screen, I mean, there's a lot of different topics that people are, betting, trading, and checking out on the various polls out there. In the meantime, as soon as we see that there's a live feed to the Capitol building this time, as the president will participate in that Friends of Ireland luncheon inside the Capitol building, we'll carry that live, and maybe there'll be more questions and answers, that kind of thing. We've been covering the 24/7 news cycle, as you guys know. A lot of stories happening. We've touched on a number of stories since we started our broadcast at 10 this morning. So I think right now, why not take a quick break? We'll be right back here on Right Side.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Matthew Alvarez. If you'd like to follow us on Truth Social, just go to @RSBN, or on X, it's @RSB Network. If you'd like to follow me on X, it's @MatthewUS Media, and then on Truth Social, @Matthew Alvarez. Meantime, the president posted, speaking of Truth Social, a message about the Save America Act this morning. Let's read that here. The Save America Act is one of the most important and consequential pieces of legislation in the history of Congress and America itself. No more rigged elections, voter ID, proof of citizenship, no rigged mail-in voting. We are the only country in the world that allows this. He also says, the president here, no men and women's sports, no transgender mutilation of our children, 90% to 99% issues all. Only sick, demented, or deranged people in the House or Senate could vote against the Save America Act. If they do, each one of these points separately will be used against the user in his or her political campaign for office. A guaranteed loss, the president says. Get your senators, Republican or Democrat, to vote yes on the Save America Act. I will never, ever endorse anyone who votes against Save America. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. So that from the president earlier this morning, right here on Right Side. Of course, we've been live since 10 this morning, Covering a few stories out there going on in the 24/7 news cycle. As the Save America Act nears a vote on Capitol Hill tomorrow, let's go out west to California once again to hear some commentary on the crucial election measure from Summer Lane. And joining us now is conservative journalist Summer Lane. Thanks so much for joining us, Summer.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be back.
Definitely great to have you back here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. And let's just dive right into the big story of the week, of course, on Capitol Hill. The Save America Act being debated this week, according to the Senate Majority Leader John Thune. Your thoughts overall, just that 33,000-foot view on the Save America Act and what it really entails?
Yeah, it seems like very common sense, right? Save America Act. What does that actually mean? All it means is that we're asking for voters to be citizens of this country. They need to prove their citizenship to register. They need to show their voter ID or photo identification to cast that ballot at the ballot box. And we are looking to universally essentially ban mail-in ballots, which have become a bit of a bane of our existence in this country. We don't know where they're coming from. We don't know where they're going. So it's just a good idea to kind of lock down on that. And then recently, the White House has added a couple of other items to this act, which is banning transgender or gender affirming treatment for minors and banning men from women's sports. Now, I don't know if we're going to get those two items with this. It seems like they're kind of trying to roll it all together to get as much done as they possibly can. They might get it. They might not. I hope they do. But I think the most important aspect, of course, is getting voter ID. Because if we can get voter ID, we can lock down on our elections, make sure our elected officials are supposed to be there, and that non-citizens are absolutely not casting ballots in this election.
Exactly. So proving citizenship, photo ID. On top of that, you talked about the mail-in ballots. And the president's talking about the fact that for illness or for, military, you can still use the mail-in ballot for that. But yeah, to your point, droves of mail-in ballots, where did they all come from in 2020? We don't want to deal with that again for this midterm election because we know how important this midterm election is. Your thoughts about that election in November?
Oh, for sure. I mean, people want to see that President Trump's campaign promises are being codified, that they're permanent. And we have a very limited window of time to really push these things through before the midterm elections. If we want to win the midterm elections, then we need to win now because we need some wind in our sails, right? And voter ID is such a broadly popular concept in this country. It's like 85% of Americans, according to Harvard-Harris recent polling, you've probably seen this, support the concept of voter ID in the Save America Act. It's not controversial at all. It's very, very common sense. This is voters across all aisles, all spectrums. They're like, yeah, it makes sense. You should be a citizen to vote. That's fine. The problem is we've created the conditions where the honor system in America is no longer good enough, right? Because we have introduced potentially tens of millions of people into our country who may or may not be voting in our election systems. Now, the leftist media will say, oh, illegal voting is already illegal. Well, yeah, no kidding, but we don't have a mechanism to enforce whether or not they're supposed to be voting, unfortunately. So we're really kind of in a bind here, and we need to do something. And you have states like California, where I live, where we have an active ban on voter ID. It is a law. We cannot show voter ID at the ballot box here, and we have mandatory, universal, compulsory mail-in ballots that are mailed to our house, whether or not you use them, but they go out to everybody. So it's a big slushy mess.
It is. It's awful to see it, and that's what we're trying to do is clean things up. I was just thinking while you were talking there too, I was like, what are we saving America from? What's your opinion on what we're saving America from? If we're going to save America, what are we saving it from?
Corruption and the stiltedness of the powers. And this is a point that I would like to make on this. I think a lot of people are missing that as Congress has become increasingly hobbled and crippled over the years because they really don't do a whole lot. Charlie Kirk famously called them the peanut gallery. He's right. They don't do a whole lot. A lot of times what they do is they cause problems. And so you see the congressional branch, the legislative branch kind of diminish in what they're doing. You see judicial and executive power increase So now we have a lopsided balance of powers in this country. There will come a point in our nation where the executive branch will just kind of be like, you know what? I'm just going to do what I'm going to do because judicial is politically captured. Congress ain't doing nothing. So now we have a very powerful executive branch. By bringing Congress to heel and saying, hey, we're going to have voter ID, we're going to actually put our people in there who need to be in there authentically because we have a secure election, we now have lawmakers who actually work for their constituents, who now are grinding those motors back to life in Congress, and our branches of power are coming back into balance. So this is literally saving our republic that has been on the brink of devastation for a very, very long time. We've been just hovering there, right? This literally will save the republic because our power, our peaceful revolutionary mechanism rests in the ballot box. If we don't have that, we do not have a country. So this is absolutely key to saving our country.
Amen to that. That's perfectly said. And then also on top of that, maybe saving us from communism or socialism or something worse that would want to take away our freedoms and on and on and on. It's like, because we know that if Harris would have won this election, we'd be in a woke, terrible situation in this country. And right now, the situation isn't the greatest. We have to still save America, according to the president. So looking forward to seeing that. Let's get into some of the nitty gritty. We know the whole filibuster rule and nuking the filibuster and all of that. Senator Tommy Tuberville out of Alabama, and then President Trump and others, they're saying we should just nuke that thing and just have a simple majority. Do you think that may be the way it goes, or that's not even on the table?
I don't know what they're going to do. I think we have a very difficult situation here because they say we can't nuke the filibuster because it's like this taboo thing. And if we nuke the filibuster to get our legislation through, the Democrats will do the same thing to say, pack the Supreme Court. They could do that, but the reality is that they're probably going to do it anyway at some point in the future. So we have this limited window where we can actually get our legislation through. But here's the counterpoint to people who are afraid of using that nuclear option is that they are going to do this no matter what, like I just said. So we have to do it because if we can get election integrity and get Congress people in to our halls of power, we don't even have to worry about them abusing the filibuster, So this all connects, right? If we get election integrity passed, we get people in Congress who will not abuse the filibuster. It's the cycle that feeds itself. So we really have to do this. It really is about saving America. It's not comfortable. Again, Democrats, if they take the majority now or years down the road, they're going to use it anyway. That's the reasoning. And I believe that they're right about that. I think they will use it.
That's a great way to look at it, too. And then also when I'm thinking about the Save America Act, it's just something that is a common sense thing that it seems like the majority of the country wants to see be done in the United States. And, there in 2013 and 2017, there were nominations where the filibuster was nuked. That is the only time it's happened for nominations. Nothing with the legislative process with bills. But this is something that, as we know, times have changed. We know that our country would be on the brink of going way left and more like other countries out there that are against our constitutional rights. And I think that's part of that saving America. And I like how you looked at it, though, when it comes to the specific congressmen and congresswomen, having people that are authentically there because we, the people, voted for them. I mean, that's a good way to look at it.
Right. I hope so. My hope is that if they do get this through, then yes, the caliber of people that you have in the Senate, in the House, they go up, right? So that way, when you get these sorts of situations, like it's ridiculous. We just ping pong legislation back and forth. They block us, we block them, we go back and forth. Nothing really gets done. This is silly. What if we actually committed to serving our constituency instead of serving our lobbyists, big pharma, corporations, foreign countries, perhaps in some cases? This has to end. This is insane. And so Save America Act, it's kind of like, it's kind of a scary thing to think about pushing it through by nuking the filibuster, but also it's one of those things that may need to be done because what other choice do we have? It's just going to sit in the Senate forever. And that is not an acceptable option either.
Exactly. Where can people follow you and follow your work, Summer?
Oh, thank you. You can follow me on X at Summer Ellen Lane, Lane, and you can see my work on rsbnetwork.com.
Awesome. Conservative journalist Summer Lane joining us here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Thank you again, Summer.
Thank you.
All right, so Summer Lane out there in California. As we are live here in Alabama, we will be going live to Washington, D.C. Shortly. Before we do, let's go to a few of our sponsors. You may have seen the conversations happening online lately where censorship is back and it's happening all over the place, platforms controlling narratives, pushing the stuff they want us to see. It's the same old story, it seems, with mainstream media and online, but we can fight back in the information arena and financially speaking as well, because Rumble is one of the only companies that has stood the test of time and deserves our support. Because on one side, Rumble is challenging big tech censorship, and on the other side, they have introduced something that will give us protection from the big banks shutting us off. And you may know that banks could cancel our accounts and freeze our cards. So that's why Rumble has simply said, you know what, we're gonna launch something called Rumble Wallet. It's a wallet that no one can cancel, a wallet that supporters can use to instantly tip creators like us without any middleman taking the cuts. So with Rumble Wallet, you can control your money, not a bank, not a government, not a tech company. Not even Rumble can touch it. So it's yours and only yours, and yours to protect your future and family. So here's a few things you can do on Rumble Wallet. You can buy and save digital assets like Bitcoin and Tether Gold in one place. So Tether Gold is real gold on the blockchain with ownership of physical gold bars. It's not only a wallet to buy and save, it also allows you to support your favorite creators by easily tipping them with a click of a button. There will be no fees when you tip our channel or others out there, and we actually receive the tip instantly, unlike other platforms where we have to wait for payouts. So you can support our channel and other conservative creators and others out there by clicking the tip button on our Rumble channel. You can also go to wallet.rumble.com. So wallet.rumble.com. You can download Rumble Wallet today, open an account, and step away from the big banks for good. Wallet.rumble.com, or search Rumble Wallet in the app stores. Also, Kalshi.com/RSBN, trending political market right now. Let's take a look at that. You can do that too if you'd like. You just download the app, Kalshi, Kalshi, or just use the QR code, or just go to Kalshi.com/RSBN. You'll get a little bonus there if you do that. But also, what will Trump say during his Friends of Ireland luncheon? That's what's coming up next here live from the U.S. Capitol building. The words here that people are trading, betting, and checking out are New York, golf or golfing, and emerald. So there's a percentage breakdown there as we are looking live at Kalshi.com. Let's take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back here on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
Okay, any minute from now, as soon as we see a live feed to the U.S. Capitol building, we'll see the president who is participating in the Friends of Ireland luncheon. Again, on Capitol Hill, we'll carry that live. Until then, a lot to talk about, of course. How about the Save America Act? Today is day one of the debate. It's starting today. We're hearing that there may be a vote as soon as tomorrow, according to the Senate Majority Leader John Thune. So we'll see what happens. One thing we know is nuking the filibuster would get us the passage of the Save America Act, but will that happen? We don't know. But we do know this. Senate Majority Leader John Thune starting the debate on the Save America Act today. So here's a video from moments ago, and then before we get to that video, there's a sharp response already from Florida Representative Ana Paulina Luna. We'll read you that here in a second, but let's go to the Senate floor from moments ago.
Mr. President, today we are kicking off an extended debate on the Save America Act, a package of common sense measures united around two themes: protecting our elections and protecting our youth. You're going to hear me use the adjective common sense a lot in this debate, Mr. President, because if there's any word that is suitable to describe the measures we're considering, it's that. Mr. President, if there's anything essential to the integrity of elections, it's ensuring that those who are registered to vote are eligible to vote, and that those who show up to vote at polling places are those who they say they are. And how do you do that? Well, by requiring that Americans show proof of citizenship when they register to vote, and that they show photo ID at polling places. That's what the Save America Act would do. It's just common sense. And polls show that the American people overwhelmingly agree. But to hear Democrats talk, you'd think that demonstrating citizenship or showing a photo ID is an intolerable burden. And yet, Mr. President, I haven't heard Democrats complaining about the 1,000 other circumstances in which we require photo ID in this country. Democrats are aware that Americans have to show photo ID to get on a plane, right? And to start a new job. And when they head to the doctor's office. And to rent a car. And to stay in a hotel. Heck, if you want to get a library card, you have to show a photo ID. The Democrats remember their 2024 convention when attendees had to show a photo ID to get in. The senior Democrat senator from Georgia required photo ID to get into his recent rally. Mr. President, did Democrats hear themselves? Are they going to start boycotting libraries and airplanes and hotels and for requiring a photo ID? Are they going to explain why they're perfectly justified in requiring photo ID for their political rallies, why it's somehow an intolerable burden to ask people to show their photo ID when they go to vote? I expect they won't. They'll simply continue with their mindless, partisan opposition to common sense ID requirements for federal elections. But let's hit pause on that topic for a minute and go to another issue where common sense and the Democrat Party have parted ways. And that's on the subject of transgender ideology. In their haste to embrace medical transgender ideology, Democrats have put themselves in the absurd position of supporting the hijacking of women and girls' sports by biological males. Yep, that's right. The party that would portray itself as a defender of women has put itself on the record as willing to sacrifice women's athletic opportunities for the sake of biological males. Now, Mr. President, no one should need an explanation of what the presence of biological males in women's sports costs women. At the most basic level, women are losing out on a slot on the team. Every roster place that goes to a male is a roster place that doesn't go to a female. And for women who are on the roster, well, the presence of a biological male can, and frequently does, rob them of opportunities to excel. Biologically, men possess physical advantages when it comes to sports, things like greater muscle mass and greater aerobic power, which means that by and large, men are likely to dominate in women's sports, taking wins and medal opportunities away from women. In an August 2024 United Nations report on violence against women and girls, they had this to say about the results of men participating in women's sports, and I quote, According to information received, by March 30th, 2024, over 600 female athletes in more than 400 competitions had lost more than 890 medals in 29 different sports, end quote. Over 600 female athletes in more than 400 competitions have lost more than 800 medals in 29 different sports. The Save America Act would ensure that men are not allowed to hijack women's sporting opportunities. And yet, once again, we expect my Democrat colleagues to oppose keeping women's sports for women. Mr. President, the idea that a female high school athlete might lose out on a college scholarship because her achievements were overshadowed by those of a biological male on her team is bad enough. But an even more dangerous consequence of the embrace of transgender ideology is that children who have become victims of irreversible gender transition procedures, and when I say children, I mean children, Mr. President, young men and women who are not old enough to vote, who are years away from being able to legally drink, who still need parental permission to take medicine at school. The New York Times reports, and I quote, a review of hospital data from 2016 through 2020 identified about 3,600 patients aged 12 to 18 who had received gender-related surgery, end quote. Age 12 to 18. Can you imagine that, Mr. President? Can you imagine allowing a child not yet out of middle school to receive a medical procedure that will result in permanent mutilation of part of her body? This madness has to end. Multiple European countries have acted to rein in gender transition procedures for minors, and so have a number of U.S. states. The Save America Act would extend protection from these procedures to all children, whatever state they live in. Common sense measures, Mr. President, require proof of citizenship to register to vote, require a photo ID at the polls, protect women's sports from being hijacked by biological males, and protect teenagers from life-altering, irreversible gender transition procedures. Measures, I might add again, Mr. President, supported by a majority of Americans. And measures we expect my Democrat colleagues to oppose. It's unfortunate that common sense is not very common anymore in the Democrat Party.
Wow. Well, in response, Florida Representative Ana Paulina Luna saying, John, either embrace the talking filibuster or this political tap dancing. And also in another post, Ana Paulina Luna, on the right side of history, of course, Florida representative saying, quote, just got word from my network in the Senate that Thune will file cloture and knows this vote will fail on Save America Act. So we're going to see what happens here with all of this. Cloture means ending the debate, forcing a vote, and there you go. So what's needed, of course, is still to nuke this filibuster. And this is the thing we're talking about. When we talk about dog and pony shows, right? Whether it's out there at a ribbon cutting ceremony out at some event, or maybe they're just talking and sounding all whatever. It's like, come on, guys. Like, get the job done. We, the people, are the ones that are supposed to be running this thing, and you guys are representing us. You don't represent yourselves, right? Am I speaking out of hand here? Again, the Save America Act needs to pass, and we need to see it with a nuked filibuster. Because if you don't nuke the filibuster, guess what? Others have been telling us here at the network on air as well, that the Democrats will just simply do that all day long next time they have any power, if that's what happens, if we lose the midterms, maybe lose the presidency. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but, you know. So when President Trump calls it the Save America Act, well, then let's get it done then. Come on now. All right, let's do this. Director, should we go to any sponsors now, or let's go to All Family Pharmacy. You need a pharmacy, of course, that actually supports your medical freedom, one that works smarter and not harder. And you can forget about doctor visits, long pharmacy lines, or dealing with insurance approvals, because that system is slow, frustrating, and outdated. But one pharmacy is doing this in a better way. So that's All Family Pharmacy, as you see there on your screen. You go online, you choose the medications you need, you fill out a quick medical form, then a licensed doctor reviews your request, and then if appropriate, they'll simply provide the prescription and it'll be shipped to your door. So you can stock up on essentials like antibiotics, antivirals, ivermectin, mebendazole, NAD+, and over 300 other prescription medications that families rely on across the country. If you believe in being prepared and having access to the medications you need, this is one of the smartest moves you can make within this health industry. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. RSBN 10 is the promo code. Let's go to Birch Gold Group as we await the president there at the U.S. Capitol building. You can think about this maybe. In 2006, $20,000 equaled roughly 33 ounces of gold at spot price. But at today's prices, those 33 ounces would be worth about, I wish we had a numbers, cash register ding here for the information. At today's prices, those 33 ounces would be worth about $165,000. So smart Americans diversify a portion of their savings into precious metals, and that's why you might want to consider buying from our friends at Birch Gold Group. For thousands of years, gold has been a store of wealth, and today it's a crucial part of any balanced strategy. Even better, Birch Gold can help you actually convert an existing IRA or a 401k into a tax-sheltered retirement account in gold. Just text Trump to the number that you see there on your screen, 989898, to receive that free info kit on gold. There's no obligation, just useful information there for you. You also get the A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers. So you can let Birch Gold help you diversify with gold. Text Trump to 989898. Again, that's Trump to 989898. Double checking some headlines here as we are live here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. We're seeing that breaking 911 about a minute ago, saying a suspicious bag with wires was reported outside a synagogue in Bay Terrace, Queens, with locals calling 911 about 35 minutes ago and still waiting for a police response. Breaking 911 saying, what's happening in Mamdani's NYC? That video from Scooter Caster NY on X. We're also seeing on Breaking 911, smoke is now seen rising from the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad after being targeted by Iranian drones. There's a number of other stories. We're seeing a lot going on out there, of course, and glad to bring you live coverage right here on Right Side. Specifically, coming up in just a little bit, what we know is that the president's going to participate in this Friends of Ireland luncheon inside the U.S. Capitol building, so we'll carry that live for you. You just saw the Senate Majority Leader John Thune starting the debate on the Save America Act. Why is there an extended debate? Why is there a debate at all to save the country? This should be nuke the filibuster, vote it in, get the job done, save the country. I mean, if it's really about saving the nation, wouldn't you save the country by nuking the filibuster and not letting anyone else, Democrats, have a say in it? Because we know what they're about. They're about crushing the Constitution, crushing our country. They act like they're all on the side of the people. They're not, and we know that. Nuke the filibuster, pass the Save America Act, common sense, right? So anyway, let's go to clip number 2 as President Trump spoke about the nation of Cuba yesterday. This as we await that live feed to the Capitol building. Let's check out clip number 2.
But I think Cuba's the end. You know, all my life I've been hearing about the United States and Cuba. When will the United States do it? I do believe I'll be having the honor of taking Cuba. That'd be good. That's a big honor.
Taking Cuba.
Taking Cuba in some form, yeah. Taking Cuba. I mean, whether I free it, take it, I think I could do anything I want with it. You want to know the truth? They're a very weakened nation right now. They were for a long time. Very violent leaders. Castro was a very violent leader. His brother's a very violent leader. Extremely violent. That's how they governed. They governed with violence. But a lot of people would like to go back.
All right, so we are seeing that the president and the motorcade is on the way, I think, or at least, that's the direction he's going, is going to be at the U.S. Capitol building. So we'll be monitoring that. As soon as we see that the president is there and we have the live picture, we're going to take you to the U.S. Capitol building. Let's go to clip 3 in the meantime, where the White House released that video all about saving college sports. You may have seen that air here live just last week.
We're gathered today to discuss an important threat to the integrity and culture of college sports, the inability to set rules on eligibility, transfers, name, image, and likeness, and more, much more than that. So we have to save college sports. I think it's just a very, very important meeting. We have the most important people in college sports and really beyond.
Just being an old football coach, it's unlikely for me to be in a situation where I'll be speaking to such a distinguished group, but I do think there's a question we all need to ask is, what are the future guidance that we want to create for college athletics?
As people talk to me about this issue, they said one thing: the only person who could bring us together to reach a consensus is President Trump.
This is a topic and an issue that's important to all Americans. It's a cornerstone of our culture, the cornerstone of our Olympic development system, and provides opportunity for so many kids across the country.
There are 556,000 young people playing college sports right now across all 50 states. They will tell you that this is one of the most formative and important parts of their collegiate experience.
I think college sports is one of the greatest things this country has going, and we're at a time period where we really need the help of Congress and the government, and all come together and speak in one unified voice to really make sure that we keep college sports healthy.
But it's very, very important that legislators get involved, because we need some parameters right now, and the law and Congress can make that happen.
We all know college sports is uniquely American. It's something that began here in the mid-1800s and has continued to grow and draw people in. And from my perspective, the attention paid by President Trump to college sports is an important part of his leadership.
We cannot continue to have an environment where NIL is out of control.
And I think this requires people coming together and thinking about solutions so that we can maintain the vital passion around college sports in this country.
The time is now for really the leaders in college sports to come together, figure out solutions, and make sure we can move into the future with really kind of great momentum and assurances that we can keep college sports special.
All right, so that event, of course, last week that you saw maybe right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Soon, today, as it's 1:21 Eastern Time, the president will participate in the Friends of Ireland luncheon inside the U.S. Capitol building. We'll carry that live for you. And then tonight, an RSBN doubleheader of sorts at 5 o'clock Eastern Time. The president participates in the Shamrock Bowl presentation in the East Room of the White House. So we'll have that live coverage a bit later. Of course, Robert McNeely will be in studio for that as we continue to cover events live here at Right Side. Also, meantime, outside of any breaking news, here are a few notable events for this year. No date right now has been officially announced, but sometime this year, President Trump will have the bilateral meeting with President Xi Jinping of China. Also, of course, July 4th, 2026, a very special July 4th, of course, as we turn 250 here in the United States of America. And yet to be officially announced, there will be a special RNC midterm convention sometime this year. Still, we'll monitor if that is still going to happen. It's at last word that there's no date announced, but that there would be an RNC midterm convention to build support into the next thing I was just going to tell you about, the United States midterm election. So that'll be November 3rd, of course, 2026. Many primaries going on throughout the country. If you're just joining us, Jared Hudson's running for U.S. Senate in Alabama. Just joined us moments ago. And of course, it's always good to bring on various guests, whether those are guests from being in office or running for office, but also outside of that, everyday America, you know, all of us. And that's something that you guys have seen over the years here on Right Side Broadcasting Network, of course, just interviewing people outside the venues, the events, hearing what you have to say. And so that's always a great thing to do. And it's not something that many news networks would usually do, is give a microphone to just anybody. And that's really what we've done here at Right Side over the years, when we would interview people without any like pre-interview or any scripts or anything. It was literally on the fly, go there and say hello and interact with various people. And I remember all over the place. How about Texas or Iowa, New Hampshire, Florida, Arizona, I believe. I don't know if I've actually done an event in Arizona, even though I've been out there for like AmFest, that kind of thing. But Nevada, on and on and on. Pennsylvania, definitely, right? Being from that state. So being able to speak with all of you out there has been quite awesome. And I know that Robert McNeely would say the same, you know, and other hosts here at Right Side over the years when it comes to people on the right side of history that just gave the people the microphone, interviewed all of you. And that's really something that we still take into account. I mean, when you guys are commenting on Rumble, our preferred site for you guys to watch, but also when you're commenting on X or Truth Social or YouTube, even live commentary, sometimes we can check it out and even replay some of the live commentary as well from you guys, your comments. So we see them, and those that say thank you RSBN, or thank you Matthew, or thank you Robert, or thank you Mama Seals, or just thank you production, whoever. We see all of that. This is a grassroots company that has now turned into a full-fledged conservative news network. CNN, not CNN cable news network, but conservative news network. No, we're not calling ourselves that in the sense of CNN, but definitely Right Side Broadcasting Network. And we just want to thank you guys so much for all the donations, all the support, all the love over the years as we continue to bring you the White House events, the presidential events, just like we will here in just a minute, and also all the analysis, the interviews, the commentary, and hopefully you just enjoy just being with us as we enjoy being with you guys, as we know that there is a country to save, and that's why it's called the Save America Act. My name is Matthew Alvarez. Guys, let's do this. Let's take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. As soon as we see that live feed to the U.S. Capitol building, we'll take you there.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First news. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. At any minute from now, we're hearing that there's some movement at the U.S. Capitol building, meaning the press is getting let in, getting access to where the president will be and is right now. It's for this Friends of Ireland luncheon. Again, it's inside the U.S. Capitol building. We'll carry that live. As soon as we see that live feed, we will take you there. In the meantime, it's about the bottom of the hour. We've been live since 10 this morning. If you're watching us live right now and you want to check out some of the live interviews and some of our coverage from the past couple hours, maybe give it a try, because there's a lot of various great people that have joined us here on Right Side Broadcasting Network as we continue to stand by for the president's second public event of the day. The first one, of course, was meeting with the Irish leader, Michael Martin, and then now he'll go to the Capitol building for that Friends of Ireland luncheon. And then tonight, again, at 5 o'clock Eastern, you can join us live as the president will participate in the Shamrock Bowl presentation in the East Room of the White House. All right, so we went over a number of the various upcoming topics or upcoming dates that are upon us for November 3rd, of course, for the United States midterm election, as we're taking a live look there at the White House. Of course, a beautiful day in D.C. President Trump saying earlier, bad things have happened to Europe, very bad things, and you better do something about immigration, and you better do something about energy, or you won't have a Europe. So interesting comments there, because we see, to his point, with immigration, the mass migration that has happened to Ireland, to the United Kingdom, to France, to Germany. And then interestingly enough, once the mass migration is happening from people that are migrating to those countries, are not becoming citizens in some cases, and then on top of that, pushing their ideologies onto the people of Europe. And then on top of that, if you say anything about it, then you get in trouble because you don't have freedom of speech. That doesn't sound very good to me, and I don't think it sounds very good to you either, right? Who wants that? That's why we have to save this country. That's why we have to keep our First and Second Amendments intact, the Constitution as the law of the land. And how about show some ID when you're about to federally vote, right? In those federal elections, photo ID, proof of citizenship in order to register. It's part of what you have to do. It's part of your citizenry. You know, being a citizen of this country, it's not too much to ask someone, hey, there's several months until the November 3rd election. Why not go get a proof of citizenship and make sure you are a citizen of this country, instead of letting tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people vote in our elections throughout our country. Most of them would push it toward the left, or they would get in ballot harvesting, filling out all this stuff for people on the left side of history that wants our nation to just go by the wayside, in the sense of no more of the First Amendment, no more of the Second Amendment. That's really what's at play here. So, Senate Majority Leader John Thune and others nuke the filibuster, pass the Save America Act, and let us have a free and fair election. How about it? President Trump and Senator Tommy Tuberville and others have said nuke the filibuster. You see the amount of great work by Mike Lindell for election security and integrity out there, and Kerry Lake over the years as well. I mean, all of these people, Seth Keshel, the list goes on. Steve Stern. I mean, these people are just constantly just saying, hey, what can we do to make sure our votes are for American citizens, that there's no rigging of the election. And then we won't even have to have a slogan that says too big to rig, because we know that everybody that is voting had to show a photo ID. Or everybody that's voting had to show a photo ID plus proof of citizenship of the United States of America. How about photo ID plus proof of citizenship plus no mail-in ballots from just anywhere unless it's for medical or military? Common sense, that's the only way to win, is to do things right. It's called true process. What's the true process to get us to where we need to be? And if we go with the false process or the wrong process, we're not going to be as free as we are right now, even though under the Biden regime, you remember, and even recently I saw in some local places, if you say something a certain way on Facebook or whatever, and this is not Ireland, this is not the UK, this is not China, and we're doing what we can, guys, to make sure that we have our freedoms intact. That's why you call it the fight for freedom, or a freedom fighter. Being a freedom fighter doesn't mean it has to be physical. It could be through prayer, through hard work, through dedication, through voting, through speaking out, through all the ways. I mean, that's one of our most powerful things we have in this country, is our vote. And I cannot believe that there's any kind of debate going on when it comes to saving the United States of America. I just can't, that doesn't compute. Doesn't compute. It's common sense to say, let's make this election secure. And if a number of people throughout our country, the majority says we want a Democrat as a president, then that's fine, only if it's through a pure is a good word to use, a free and fair election. But what we do know is that the majority of the United States of America is on the right side of history. Think about the past three presidential cycles. In 2016, Trump won, landslide, 7 swing states, Donald Trump. In 2020, President Trump won in a landslide, 7 swing states. Yeah, I said 2020. And no, I didn't misspeak. We know he won that. We crushed it in that election. But we know COVID and mail-in ballots. And then 2024, 2025, President Trump won in a landslide again. So that's the point here. We know that the majority of the United States of America are on the right side of history. Just because the media has a bigger kind of so-called megaphone, well, that megaphone's starting to shrink up a little bit. And conservative media is here now, and podcasters and citizen journalists and some great people that are on the right side of history out there. So pass the Save America Act. What else is there to say? How's anybody going to want to vote if they realize that the Save America Act isn't passed and anybody can just vote in our elections? I mean, still we have to go up and show up and vote anyway. And to Seth Keshel's point, then it's up to the states to get this going. So that's what's at stake. We know we want our freedoms to continue. Let's go to the U.S. Capitol building right now.
Oh, it is. That's so cool. That's great. Well, thank you very much, everybody. What an honor this is. Yeah, it's 6 times. Can you believe it? Moving along. Well, we like it. You're a healthy guy. Between you and you, you've done very well medically, I can tell you. But there's a lot of truth. It's too long a story to tell, but these two guys are very special. I want to thank our great speaker. He's a great speaker, actually. He's a great speaker. Because when you think of everything that we've passed with a sometimes majority of 1, when we get back to 2, 3, and 4, Mike, we think we have it really made. We lost a couple, and we had a couple of people. They're in heaven now. They're looking, and that didn't help us with the vote, but we're doing all right, and you're getting things done like really nobody. I think there's never been anything like it. So I just want to thank you. You're doing a fantastic job. And I want to thank that beautiful, you're not allowed to say that about women anymore, but I say it anyway. Usually it's the end of your career. You're not allowed to use the word beauty in any form to introduce a woman, but she happens to be beautiful. Kelly, thank you very much. All Irish. I'm in deep trouble. I'm in deep trouble. There'll be headlines when I get out of this room, but I'll stick with it. But and then your family is so incredible too. So thank you very much. And to every friend of Ireland in this room today, I just want to wish you a very happy St. Patrick's Day, special day. It's a very great day. And to Taoiseach, you are a man that I've gotten to know, and you mean business. And he can tell a story like nobody can tell a story. And then he said, how did you speak for almost 2 hours? A couple of weeks ago at a call, I'd called State of the Union. I said, you could do it very easily. I guarantee you that. He could do it. But we've had a really great relationship. And Mary, thank you very much. Terrific. Thank you very much to be with you both. I hope you enjoy your stay. Also with us is House Majority Leader Steve Scalise. Steve, great job. Deputy First Minister of Northern Ireland, and they get along so well. I saw that. You get along very well together. That's the way it's supposed to be, huh? I don't know if I should be promoting merger. I love mergers, but I didn't know. We're going to get in a little trouble. We're going to get in more trouble with that than the beauty. But Emma, Little, Pengali, thank you very much, Emma. Thank you very much. And the ambassador from the Republic of Ireland, Geraldine Byrne-Nason. Geraldine, thank you, Geraldine. Thank you very much. Ambassador from the United Kingdom, Christian Turner. Christian, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Christian. Thank you very much. And the U.S. ambassador to Ireland, a great golfer. This guy can play golf. He can play golf. Walshy, right? Can't you, huh? But Trump's not bad. No. He's a great player, and he's having a lot of fun over there. What is that for a guy who loves golf? Is that the best location? Can you imagine? Ambassador to Ireland? That's got to be the greatest job in the world. Anyway, have a good time. Have a good time. You're doing a good job. As many of you know, this year we're celebrating something that is very special, the glorious 250th anniversary of America's founding. That's a big deal, and I'm very happy to be here. I wasn't supposed to be president right now. I was supposed to be maybe in Ireland taking it easy, or someplace taking it easy. But I'm president now, and I got the Olympics, I have the World Cup, and I have the 250th year. And we all have it together. And I just do want to say that the war is proceeding very, very strongly. We're doing very, very well. Iran, knocking the hell out of them, and you have to do that. We can't let them have a nuclear weapon. They were 2 weeks away, in my opinion, 2 weeks away from having a nuclear weapon. If those beautiful, magnificent machines, those B-2 bombers, if they didn't do their job 7 or 8 months ago, they would have had a nuclear weapon, and there would have been no talking to them, no talking at all. They would have used it very gladly, very happily, and you sort of see that by the fact that they were sending missiles, ballistic missiles, powerful missiles, to all of their neighbors, and for the most part, they were supposed to be somewhat friendly with their neighbors. They were going to blow the hell out of them, and that was going to be the Middle East, between Israel, the Middle East, and Europe would have been there, and we would have been there. There would have been no stopping, and we did a good job, and a lot of people appreciate it. A lot of presidents know they should have done it. It was 47 years of terror. Every time you see somebody with no legs, no arms, a face that's been really so badly damaged, so badly hurt, lives destroyed. 95% chance it came right out of Iran. They loved that bomb. They loved that bomb. And the father of that was, as you know, Soleimani, General Soleimani, and we got rid of him in my first term, and if we didn't get rid of him, I think it might have been a different story, because he was a bad guy, but he was a brilliant guy if you like to fight dirty, and he fought as dirty as you can. So we've done something that a lot of people said that other people should have done long before I got here, but it's my honor to do it, and we've had a very big day today. We knocked out things that nobody thought were possible to knock out. Today was a very big day already. As part of this great celebration, we also honor 250 years of cherished Irish-American friendship and 250 years of fierce, proud, tenacious Irish-American heritage. These are incredible people. Oh, I know so many Irish. They're difficult, though, you know. They're very difficult. And they're great politicians. You know, I was just told, right, that 23 American presidents have some Irish blood in them, right? Some a little bit, and some a lot, right? That's a pretty big number. I don't think and nobody else competes with that. But out of the 56 signers of our Declaration of Independence, 11 were patriots with roots in Ireland. Back in July 4th, 1776, it was a son of Ireland who actually printed that sacred document for the first time. Who knew that? And it was also an Irishman who first read its immortal words to the American public, proclaiming aloud that we are all made free and equal by the hand of our Creator and endowed by God with rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That came out of the blood of Ireland. The Irish did not come to America. They helped found America, the fact is, and they helped build America. And these are incredible people. I know them well. And with a little bit of Irish luck, they helped make America into the most exceptional nation the world has ever seen. And we're doing better. We had to do a little excursion, if you don't mind. A little excursion to take care of nuclear weaponry in the hands of maniacs. But other than that, in a couple of weeks, and won't be much longer, it's moving along fast. We're way ahead of schedule. Did you know that, Mr. Speaker? I'm trying to save a lot of money by being ahead of schedule. We're way ahead of schedule. Nobody would have thought, a great war historian told me today, nobody would have thought you could do that much damage in that little time, 2 weeks. But we're way ahead. But we had prior to that, and really, I guess you could say after that, but prior to that, and it'll bounce back so fast, the oil prices will drop like a rock, and the economy is so powerful, so strong. And we hit 50,000 on the Dow. Think of that, 50,000. I was told you'll never hit 50,000, not for the first 3 years. Maybe at the end of the fourth year, you might be able to hit it. We hit it in the first year. And we then hit 7,000 on the S&P, and that was even more of a long shot, Steve. That was a chance that they said you couldn't do that. That was harder than 50 on the Dow. 7,000 on the S&P. We hit that before the end of the first year. And all of those things. And then I said to myself, well, we're doing great. We're doing great. I went to Susie, my beautiful Susie Wiles. There's nobody like Susie. I went to Susie. Right? And everybody's with her, and she's a great woman, really. She's a great woman. But I went to Susie. I always go to Susie. I said, Susie, do you mind if I take a little excursion here? Do you mind if I... we're hitting all these records, right? More people are working in the United States today than ever before. I could name this. I don't want to bore you because this is all about Ireland. This is all about, but you're a big part of it because you're a big part of this country. But I said, do you mind if I take a little excursion, my chief of staff, because I want to do this. I have Marco here. We have a lot of our great people. JD is here. They're all here, and I say, let's do this. We got to do it right. Should have been done by many presidents. Should have been done long before 47 years. It's 40 years of living in terror. They're called the bully of the Middle East, but they're really the bully of the world because he used oil to bribe, right? They used oil to bribe and to, gain power. I don't know what they gained. What did they gain? What the hell? How are they doing? Not so good. They're all gone now. Every one of them, they're all gone. We don't even know who to... Our biggest problem, we don't know who to deal with. Over here, I can call the Speaker of the House. He's so powerful. I can call him. I can make a deal. Maybe. I can even call your Democrat counterpart, this guy. I said to Kelly, what do you think of your counterpart? He said he's a great guy. This is Republican Democrat. I never thought I was going to hear that about you. Let me shake your hand for a second. When Kelly tells me that, I said, that's the way it used to be. That's the way, not so long ago. And maybe someday that's the way it'll be again. It's really great. But I said, do you mind if I take a little excursion? Because we have to do something. And it'll be a short-term excursion. But we have all these great things going. And we had to, we could have gone up. It was only going in one direction. But I think now it's going to go much higher than it would have gone had we not taken this little journey. And so I appreciate all of the people that have worked with us. That was not an easy decision to make. We have a country that was hotter than any country anywhere in the world and doing great in every way. And I say, we have to put out this cancer. It's a cancer. We had to take that operation, and we did, and it was very successful. And it continues. Frankly, as somebody said, they could leave today and it would take 10 years to rebuild the damage that's been done. But I think we have to make it a little bit more permanent because no other president has to go through this, and we shouldn't have any other president having to go through this kind of a thing. And if they didn't want to do it, if for some reason they didn't want to do it, we'd have the same problem. We don't ever want to have that problem again, not with lunatics. We can't have lunatics controlling nuclear weaponry. So I just want to thank you, everybody. let's get back to Ireland. Do you mind? Ireland, we don't mind. Ireland is a nice place. I love Ireland. In fact, we're going to have the Irish Open at a property that happens to be owned by yours truly, but I have nothing to do with it. I own it, but I don't even like to talk to my son. He says, Dad, we're doing great with the I'm allowed to run it, but I don't choose to. Dad, we're doing great. Eric calls up. He's doing a good job. Do you like Eric? I think so, right? Who doesn't like Eric? But he calls up, Dad, we're doing a great job in Ireland. What's going on? Well, we're doing this tonight. Tell me. I said, don't tell me about it. I don't want to know about it. I don't want to know about it. Of course, if we were treated badly, I'd let him know very quickly. But I think you are very proud of what's been done over there by the Trump organization, right? It's one of the greatest places, one of the greatest golf courses in the world. And it's an honor to hold the Irish Open there. It's coming up very shortly, and it's a great honor. Thank you. And say hello to Rory McIlroy and all of those great players, because they are truly great talents, and they're wonderful people, friends of mine. But over the centuries, 130 members of the House and Senate have been born in Ireland and been elected to work in these great halls. Think of it. That's a lot. Our national anthem itself was signed by the sight of the Star-Spangled Banner waving over the fort named for the son of Ireland, Fort McHenry. When Americans ventured west on the Oregon Trail, they were guarded by troops stationed at Fort Riley, named for the Irish-American warrior who President Grant called the finest specimen of physical manhood I've ever looked upon. We didn't know that about President Grant. I think we just learned something. But I could say that about your sons, okay? Kelly, I could say that about your sons. One's a boxing champion. They're like champions. Who would think from this one? It's got to be from them. Well, I didn't know about your Italian roots either. I thought he was a super wasp. You know, to me, Mike was always a wasp. Now I learned that this is serious Italian stuff, right? Well, that'll be good for you, I think. You know, his image has changed a hell of a lot very quick. He's great. Even today, when Americans visit Gettysburg, they find a Celtic cross honoring the soldiers of the famed Irish Brigade and defended our Union in its pivotal hour, most pivotal hour. They were there, and it said that more than 50% of all congressional medals of honor are awarded. Think of that. 50% went to people who had parents, one or the other, Irish American. That's a lot. We're going to have to that's because we have so many Irish politicians. That's how that works. But we can't let that. We got to make some changes in that. That's too many. Don't you think, Kelly? I think. But from 1776 to today, our country has stood strong and free, in no small part due to the spirit of the warriors. You really are warriors. You're incredible. And the Fighting Irish, you know, Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish, is a reason for it. I don't know how many Irish people are playing on the team, though. How many Irish people do we have on the team? I'm not sure we have so many. Well, you got him. You have Kelly. Kelly's a warrior, let me tell you. As the Taoiseach has said, and the President reminds us today, the United States and Ireland continue to build upon the age-old bond together. We are strengthening the ties of culture. We have a tremendous deficit, by the way, I want to tell you right now. I looked at the numbers. You guys are much better business people than our past politicians. We have to talk about that deficit. Are we allowed to talk about that today? It's a substantial deficit. Okay, tomorrow. Okay, Walt said tomorrow. And cooperation that really does stretch back many, many generations. Under our leadership, as we speak, Irish companies are investing more than $6 billion into the United States, including $45 million in Pennsylvania, $70 million in Colorado, and over $100 million in New Mexico and Ohio. And I'm hopeful that we'll soon reach a deal to let American liquefied natural gas, and that'll bring down your deficits a lot. So I think you have to make this deal with us. Got to do something. But these companies are going to be fueling your homes and factories and all of the other things. We have a lot of energy in this country. We have more than anybody. We have the most energy of any country in the world by far. So we want to sell a little of that to you. and the deficit will come down, 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 and everybody's going to be happy. So you got to buy a lot of our stuff. But in this small and beautiful, it's a beautiful room. I love this room. It's been a very warm room. I've had a good time. I have so many friends and so many relationships that I've gotten from this room, mostly from this event. But on this St. Patrick's Day, as we press ahead toward the opportunities that await, let us remember the beautiful words of St. Patrick himself. May the power of God preserve us. May the wisdom of God instruct us. May the hand of God protect us. May the way of God direct us. May the shield of God defend us. And may the host of God guard us. That's beautiful. Thank you. And today we add, may God bless the people of Ireland, and may God bless the United States of America. And it's great to be with you. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm happy for you. Thank you, Martin. Good to see you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so the president participating in the Friends of Ireland luncheon inside the U.S. Capitol building. Meantime, join us tonight at 5 o'clock Eastern as the president participates in the Shamrock Bowl presentation. That'll be at the East Room of the White House. That starts at 5 o'clock. Robert McNeely will be in studio for that. Thanks so much for watching. For all of us here at Right Side, I'm Matthew Alvarez. We'll see you later today.